Enough is enough. These four schools, and we've got a list that's very different from one another. Your excuses have run out. There's no more, well, we played a tough league. Well, we came so close. Well, we did this. Well, we did that. No more excuses for these schools in the playoff era. That's what we're leading off with here today on the Fan Upstate Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. And you guys are the Tolos, you 17 Tolos who have already jumped into the stream. It's only been live for like 4 minutes, and it just keeps on growing. Now we're at 21. Thank you all for jumping in. And hey, hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Just search for the Fan Upstate. You can be a part of the live stream here today. Chop it up with Cole and I. Chop it up with the other Tolos. And, of course, we love you if you're texting in at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Man, we are, 4 days away? 4 days away from college football in earnest getting kicked off. Yeah, it was great to have 4 games last weekend, but that felt just like a tease, right? It felt like that commercial. It was the guy in the fishing outfit who was dangling the dollar bill in front of the girl. Oh, you almost quicker than that. You almost had it.
Yeah.
We almost had it. We almost had college football, and it's back here in earnest. Florida State going to play somehow 2 games in the same week on the calendar. Make that make sense.
Well, that's NCAA for you. Yeah. I do want to preface, though, as you teased, it's time to put the excuses on the side.
Put up or shut up.
Put up or shut up. Here's what happened. You made a list of 4, right, on the rundown. Mm-hmm. I attempted to make a list of 4. So here's where I stand. I just want you to know why I only have 3, because you and I have not communicated this yet. I'm going to have 4. But the 4th, just so you know, and so the Tolos know, I am going to choose my 4th based on the votes that come in from the Tolos.
Interesting.
I'm going to choose which one I see best. And, boy, I love this topic, by the way. It's a great question. This might ruffle a feather or 6.
So I know we've got hardcore Miami fans in the audience. I know we've got Georgia fans in the audience. We've got fans from all over, NC State, North Carolina, Tennessee fans, South Carolina fans, Clemson fans. Y'all are from everywhere. Greenville is becoming a melting pot. The upstate has a little mix of everything. 35,000 people move here every single year. Welcome, even if some people around here don't want you to be here. Oh, we want you to be here, okay? We're happy that you're here. I know. The OGs, those who have been around the upstate in Greenville their entire lives, they don't want you around. I don't feel that way, okay? I'm an honorary Greenvillian. I'm a local because I've been here almost 20 years.
Ooh,
wow. Almost 20. I know. God, I moved here in 2007, so I'm officially a local in Greenville, and I say welcome to all of you. Who gives a rip of what Michael Stefakis has to say anyway? Even though I called him out by name. He makes a mean bologna breakfast sandwich. I'm going to say that right now. Why don't you go into his restaurant, look it up, Stacks Original, it's out in Cherrydale, and go out there and order a sandwich and tell him, I just moved here from out of town, and Diesel said you didn't want me here.
Man, that's right.
I don't think you will.
Taking shots.
I don't think you will.
I liked it.
So
I like the shots early.
We are officially in a new era of college football. Everybody knows it. The 12-team playoff era. Making your conference championship game, Cole, will basically guarantee a spot in the college football playoff. We debated that yesterday if it should automatically get you in. You know, we were looking at it from the perspective of, well, you had to have that entire season-long body of work to even get into your conference championship game. Should the result of what happens therein really even matter, especially if you're talking about, the weaker conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC? But unless the committee looks at your power conference as a super weak power conference, looking at you, ACC, and you don't have 2 teams in or near the top 12 in the rankings towards the end of the season, simply making your conference championship game is probably a golden parachute that's going to get you a first-round home game in the college football playoff. Think about it this way. You win your conference championship game, you've got a golden ticket to go past the first round into the second round. But if you lose that game, you got a golden parachute probably to hosting a first-round game. I mean, are we going to see teams that didn't even make their conference championship game jumping those that did? If a game is even remotely close?
It could.
Yeah. So
Here's a list. Here's my list.
Are we going one by one or all four at a time?
Let's go 4-1 or 1-4. It really doesn't matter. There's
I like 4-1.
There's no necessary order here. These I kind of wrote them down as I went and numbered them. So we'll go tit for tat here.
Okay.
These are teams that we say enough is enough. There are no more excuses for you now that we're in a 12-team playoff era. You got no more excuses for not making it at this point. You can't say it was Big Brother in the conference. You can't say that things didn't go your way. Number one on my list, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, now that Texas and Oklahoma are out of the Big 12, Oklahoma State's got no more excuses. Mike Gundy has been there for like forever, right? Get it done. Mike Gundy, you've been there 19 years. You have an 89-41 record just in the last decade, just in the CFP era. You've had 5 10-plus win seasons. More than half of your seasons in the college football playoff era have been 10-plus win seasons. They won 12 games in 2021. And, obviously you can take one of those non-10 win seasons away because it was COVID year and most teams didn't even play 10 games that year. But Mike Gundy has been there forever. He's a quality coach, even though we know thousands of times he's had a couple of beers, gotten in the truck and driven home. We won't hold that against him. Oklahoma State, you're out of excuses.
So I don't hate that. As I react to yours as well as tell you mine, Oklahoma State's on my list. They're definitely in the conversation of put up or shut up. No more excuses. You're simply out. I agree with you on Oklahoma State being in the top. However, they're not at the top of my list. At the very top of my list, put up or shut up. You're out of excuses, especially this season, Diesel. With Florida State going down in week 0, I have the Clemson Tigers at number 1, coming in strong. No more excuses, and here's why. We have heard from Dabo Swinney now for the past year to year and a half that the success or lack thereof in the program over the last 3 to 4 years, Diesel, has nothing to do with his inability or refusal to use the portal. He says, we have had our own problems, but it's not related to the portal. I say, now that Dabo Swinney has his quarterback for his second year, he has his OC for his second year. I know last year you had a lot of newness on that football team. I know last year you were breaking in a quarterback and an OC at the same time. I understand the challenges that Clemson had last year. However, in the ACC this year, with Florida State already having lost, there's no way you can't put Clemson at the top because they have a prime opportunity, Diesel, to win the ACC this season and go on and find themselves not only in the playoff, but highly ranked when the season's end. I say number 1 on my list is Dabo Swinney and Clemson. It's time to put up or shut up. I'm tired of excuses. I don't like excuses, and I'm ready to see them either do just that, put up or shut up.
Man, you just pulled the old swip swap on me because I was looking at teams who haven't made the college football playoff in the 4-team era. And I'm looking to say who has to make it in the 12-team era. You just did the little on me, and you turn it around for teams that have made the college football playoff, and you say there's no reason now whatsoever for you not to make it.
No. If you don't make the playoff this season and you're Clemson, now that Florida State's already lost, it is a tremendous failure. And I don't care if you disagree with me on that. If you, Clemson football in 2024, miss the college football playoff with the table set perfectly for you to dominate the conference, it's a massive failure. And if you don't see it that way and you're a Clemson fan, you need to take off the freaking glasses.
Again, at the very least, you got to finish top 2 in the ACC. If you finish top 2, if you finish second, you're almost guaranteed a lock. When you've at least got Florida State and Clemson and Miami in the league, whichever of those 2, 3 finish 1 and 2, they're getting into the college football playoff, both of them, right? There's no reason whatsoever why the number 2 team in the ACC shouldn't get in. I mean, Look at that. I mean, we use one bid league when it comes to the NCAA basketball tournament like it's a 4-letter dirty word. Like a one bid league. Ugh, your league sucks. You can only get one team in this thing. And man, if the ACC falls that far, they are in deep, deep doo-doo. I got Texas A&M on my list as my number 2. Again, mine are not in any particular order, but Texas A&M's got more money than everybody, right? And they were able to buy the highest ranked recruiting class of all time. Where did it get them? Absolutely nowhere. All those people FO'd. They got out of Dodge. They got the hell out of town when Jimbo Fisher and his tenure was starting to go down like the Titanic. They said enough is enough. We're getting out of here. But Texas A&M, you got everything you could possibly need. You've got one of the most rabid fan bases in the world, even though we all know they're a weirdo, freako, commie cult. Sure. They do weird stuff. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. When they took over down at Hillcrest High School a couple of years ago when Texas A&M came in to play Clemson. But they got no reason whatsoever to not be making the college football playoff at least once every 3 seasons.
So I love that one as well. They do have the money. They do have the resources. Look, you and I know the Texas money's different. Like it's different than the Alabama money. It's different than the other SEC teams not in the state of Texas money. The state of Texas money is deep, and I've experienced it firsthand. I'll tell you, you're right. They should be on the list. I have trouble putting them between 2 and 5, 2 and 6 on my list because there are a few other teams that I do have higher than them. I will say they aren't in my top 4 because of the first-year coach in Mike Elko. I'm going Diesel to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him 2 to 3 years like he should have to build a program before I judge it.
Is it true, Cole, that back in the 90s you could submit your Marlboro points as donations to the University of Alabama? I heard that was true, right? If you chose,
we can find out.
If you chose not to use it on the Winston jacket, you could send it down to Tuscaloosa and they would accept them. 50 cents on the dollar at least. Welcome to the Creation 864 God. Very first time being in the stream. We appreciate you. There's a couple of Tolos, I think, who I'm maybe seeing for the first time.
Yesterday, too.
David Husky. I think I might have seen you in the stream before.
Yeah, David's been in there.
But I'm not sure. There you go. David has been in here before. Again, we know we got the Creation 864 God in here, so we appreciate
it's football season.
Yeah, it's football season. People are starting to turn
Everybody's like, let me wake up and turn on the sports radio.
Speaking of which, Creation, do you know about the Upset Picks Challenge? Tomorrow at 4:00, we are accepting week 1 picks for the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles. If you don't know about it, keep listening. We will go down the list of rules. You'll know all about it tomorrow at 4:00. And if you are still a little confused, just listen. As people are making their picks, you'll kind of get the hang of it. And this is a season-long contest. So if you're not entirely sure early on, you got time to jump in and make up some ground and possibly win this thing.
Diesel, real quick, my number 2, Penn State. James Franklin, man, he's had a good regular season. It seems like every year they finish top 10. He's 112-54 in his career. They just haven't gotten it done. 56-32 in the Big Ten. Overall record at Penn State, 88-39. He's a good coach. I kind of like him. I don't think he's an elite level head coach, Diesel, but when you talk about put up or shut up, this guy, I mean, how many wideouts do you have to have in order to be consistent for 1 year? So I have Clemson 1 on my list of put up or shut up, no more excuses, and Penn State 2.
Penn State on my list as well. I mean, how long are they going to let James Franklin have all those resources and have all that fan support and not be able to get over the hump and get it done? I mean, it's not like it's easy, right? None of this is easy for any of these teams, but you got Ohio State in front of you. You got Michigan in front of you. Now you've got Oregon coming in, and they're probably going to be in front of you as well. Here's the deal. You got to be basically top 4 in the Big Ten because most seasons, the Big Ten are going to get minimum 3 teams in the CFP.
Yeah, if you're top 3, you're in.
Right. Every now and again, they're going to get 4. I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to basically vie back and forth to see who's going to get that 4th team in out of their conference. And in years where there's 4, it damn well better be Penn State because I'm sorry, Oregon's going to have more resources than you. And Michigan, we don't know what they're going to be yet under Sharon Moore, but we have a feeling that Sharon is that type of guy who can get that program back up and running and keep it running at a high level. Man, so much wild stuff coming down in that Connor Stallions documentary on Netflix. I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Is it out?
I've heard. I'm not sure. I've seen little reports here and there, drips and drabs, things that he's saying. So again, I don't know for sure if that doc is out or not.
If Penn State doesn't make the playoff this year, is it a disappointment in terms of like maybe James Franklin isn't the guy? If they don't make it this season,
I think I think that seat automatically becomes hot. I mean, we'd have to go back and look at the final AP results over the last couple of years, last 5 years or so, and see where Penn State is finishing. And if they're finishing inside the top 15 consistently, then they ought to be in that mix, obviously, to go make the CFP. If they're not, that's when you're talking 3 lost teams. And that's where you're pushing yourself out. Number 4 on my list, I've got Wisconsin, another team coming out of the Big Ten. They're 90-38 in the CFP era, but they've never gotten in. Second year under Luke Fickell, you still got all that excitement. You got some great traditions. You got a huge fan base. He's got a 69% win rate while at Wisconsin, and they just got to get it done, right? There's every now and again we see Wisconsin jump up and garner a lot of national attention. And then they always sort of fade down the stretch over the last 5 or 6 games of the season. They always fade. I want to see Wisconsin do it. You know, it feels like one of those classic teams, those classic programs that's never gotten over the hump. Yeah. Wisconsin, it's time to put up or shut up. And maybe Wisconsin and Penn State are going to be 2 teams that are trading a playoff appearance every couple of years. But the Badgers got to get it done.
So that record, 90-38 of Wisconsin in the college football playoff era, those 38 losses, that seems great. However, I would bet you if you took a fourth of those 38 losses, you're probably looking at top 10 losses and losses that really hurt your chances of getting in the 4 because you're right, 90-38, that's a great record in the college football playoff era when it's 4 teams. But all of a sudden now, with the expanded playoff, those 38, you would, if you looked at every one of those 38 losses, I guarantee you that it's to some pretty highly ranked teams that they just couldn't win the big games. So number 4 on my list. Oh, no, I didn't do number 3. Notre Dame is 3. I think.
Well, Notre Dame's made it a lot, though.
They've
already made it a lot.
But I'll tell you this, man. With that schedule year in and year out,
and all the media help that they
have no excuse of not being Diesel. Like, even if they were the 12th, well, they'll probably get the like you said a couple of weeks ago, they'll probably put the large or the highest ranked G5 power team at 12. If Notre Dame finishes 9-11 every year, that's probably about right for with the schedule they play. They should be in the playoff every single season with it 12 teams. So I have Notre Dame 3. I'm going Oklahoma State 4. I like your number 1 Oklahoma State. I'm just, you know how we talk about coaches that have just kind of worn out the welcome? I almost feel like Mike Gundy's worn out the welcome. Why are Oklahoma State fans not ready to get rid of? I mean, are they just okay?
Because he's a good old boy? Because he's a mulleted good old boy, right? He probably drives a square body Chevy truck around Stillwater, Oklahoma, and they love him for it.
That's awful, though, man.
So
been just average.
Let's go over our list here one more time quickly, and now let's put some context to it, right? Let's say how many years out of 5 that these teams need to make the college football playoff, given their conference, because it's certainly different being in the SEC and being in the Big 12. How many out of 5 years do these teams need to make the college football playoff as a 12-team playoff? Well, let's just go with that until we know that it's going to expand one day, because it will eventually. With Oklahoma State, in my mind, they got to make it 2 out of 5 years.
Okay. I'll go Oklahoma State 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. 1 out of 5. Man, I almost went 3 out of 5 just because they're in the Big 12.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, Utah's there, Arizona's there, Kansas and Kansas State are there. But
you know what? I'm going to go 2 out of 5 too.
Most of those teams, they're not perennial favorites to go and win that conference. So to me, this is going to be a battle from now on between Oklahoma State and Utah.
I'm going to change my mind to 2 out of 5 as well.
I'm going to change mine to 3 out of 5.
Okay, I'll go 2 out of 5.
All right, Texas A&M coming out of the SEC. So they've got a very, very difficult road trying to be essentially a top 4 SEC team. If they can do that 1 out of 5 years, I'm good with A&M.
I'll say A&M 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
Yeah, the money. Who else has the money other than the team in Austin? Who else has the money that you have? And Mike Elko, I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's an elite coach, but A&M has no excuses. 2 out of 5 for me.
All right, let's go down to your list. Let's go to Clemson. For me, that's 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. 100%.
They got to make it 4 out of 5.
100%. You can get 1 year, right? And 3 out of 5 is even okay, but I'm with you. 4 out of 5, you've got to be there every 5 years. Clemson should win the ACC at least 3 to 4.
Penn State, we both have them on our list. I've got Penn State. They need to make it 2 out of 5 to keep the fan base happy and to keep head coach James Franklin employed.
Yeah, I said 2 as well. 2 out of 5.
Wisconsin, I've got them at 1 out of 5.
See, they're not on my list. So
they're not on yours. Okay.
I would agree. I like Luke Fickell. He wins a lot of games, but he just doesn't seem to win the ones that get him in. Now, 12's bigger than 4. We know that. And maybe Luke Fickell does get in now, Diesel.
Honorable mentions we didn't get to on my list. I've got NC State, Miami, and Ole Miss. You're out of excuses. Y'all 3 schools got to get in at least 1 out of 5 years.
NC State.
1 out of 5.
That's a fascinating choice.
If you're Dave Dorn and NC State and you can't finish 1, 2, 3 in the ACC once out of every 5 years, you got to go.
All right, coming up next, I ask the question, who has the better season in 2024, Alabama or Texas? And then at 3:30, we'll talk to our Week 0 High School Player of the Week. All that next on the Fan Upstate. High school player of the week for week 0 in just a few moments from now. But before we get to that, let's start the conversation with a question that I have, Diesel, for you as well as our Tolos. And when we get interrupted in a few minutes, we'll come back to it a little bit later in this segment. But I want you to start chewing on this. We have about 3 minutes until we bring Lincoln Husky, the high school player of the week for week 0, on the program. And by the way, we'll talk to the player of the week every Tuesday right here on Wire to Wire. Diesel, 2024, I want to know, are we 100% sure that we know the answer to who will have a better season, Alabama or Texas? I believe most people, when asked this question, would lean Texas. Am I wrong there?
No, but Texas has a little more established head coach. They've got Steve Sarkisian there, multiple years under that program. He's got Quinn Ewers, a really solid quarterback. He's got talent all over the field. I mean, there's a plethora of riches there in Austin. And with Alabama, they have many of the same things.
Sure.
The big difference is they got a new head coach in Kalen DeBoer. And now we know who Kalen DeBoer has been at his past stops. So we know he's been elite everywhere he's been. I think he's probably, what has he lost? Less than 10 games his entire career as a head coach. It's just absurd, the record that Kalen DeBoer has, but he's coming into a new conference. He's at a new school. So we don't know for sure what Alabama's going to be. We seem to have just one fewer question mark about Texas than we do again about Alabama.
It's fascinating though, because like, we're 1 year removed, not even, from Nick Saban not being the coach at Alabama. And it just seems as if, and maybe the narrative, maybe everyone will end up being right, but do you not find it fascinating that we're not even a year removed from Nick Saban, and it's almost like the page is turned on Alabama? Like, they have Texas to compete with in the conference. They have Georgia to compete with in the conference. We don't know about Oklahoma. We know LSU should be good. We know that there might be a few teams along the way that could give Alabama maybe at Neyland Stadium October 19th for the Crimson Tide. But boy, does it seem like we're just turning the page on those guys very quickly. I think it may be a mistake. I know that Texas probably has a more favorable schedule. There's not a ton of difference, but you look at their first 5 games, Diesel: Colorado State, Michigan, UTSA, ULM, and Mississippi State. There's one team there with a pulse. One team.
ULM?
No, not the Warhawks. Michigan. Maybe Michigan doesn't have a pulse, but they do play Oklahoma, Georgia the next 2 weeks. After that, it's like Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, teams that I think Texas will beat. Bama has LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia. Those games could be a hiccup for first-year Kalen DeBoer, but I just sometimes feel like maybe we're turning the page a little bit too fast.
Well, I mean, we have to operate on the information that we have at hand, right? And we know that Alabama didn't see some mass exodus of talent off the roster like a lot of people thought we were going to see. And Alabama still plays a very, very tough schedule. They miss a lot of the easier teams. They've traded some of the easier teams on their schedule in years past when they were playing divisions, and they've traded them for some really tough teams out of the East. I mean, yeah, they get Vanderbilt, but to go with Vanderbilt, they also get Georgia, right? They get South Carolina, which is an easier team from the East than what they've gotten out of the West, but they also get Missouri, and they've almost always had Tennessee on the schedule. So, and they get, of course, they get Oklahoma. They still play Auburn. They still play on the road at LSU. Alabama's got a really, really tough road. Their first season, this season, their first year in a divisionless SEC.
It's fascinating. And the divisionless SEC, to your point, it is something that I want to keep an eye on. But the question is, do you think the divisionless SEC will impact the way that these schedules could play out?
Well, I do wonder if there's going to be some form of a rolling 5-year average when it comes to scheduling. You know, if they can somehow do a relative strength of schedule, like rank the strength of schedule in the conference, they say, okay, Alabama, you got the number 1 strength of schedule this year and next year and the next year. In year number 4, we're going to take it a little bit easy on you, right? Do we think that's going to happen? I mean, a lot of the fans, they don't want to see that.
Yeah.
They don't want to see all the easiest teams. They don't want to see a conference slate that is Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State.
I know we haven't seen it yet, but before the season starts, I think I'm a fan of the no divisions. I really do. I think I like it. I could be wrong. I want to see it play out, but I think I'm a fan of it.
Well, if I had my way, I would split this conference in half, and everybody would play everybody in their own conference.
Ooh, SEC A and SEC B?
Yeah.
Man.
Or just do like it was the old way, the SEC and the Southwest Conference.
All right, we'll take a pause on the SEC Alabama-Texas conversation. We will get back to it in just a few minutes, but we do bring in our Week 0 High School Player of the Week. He had a fantastic performance on Friday night, 6 total touchdowns for Lincoln Husky of Boiling Springs. Lincoln, we appreciate you hopping on. Talk about what you saw on Friday night that enabled you to have such a good performance.
Thank you guys for having me. But first off, I just want to thank all my coaches and thank all my teammates. Really, I want to thank my offensive linemen for keeping me up throughout all the game. Thank Chevy, Hog of the Week. That's what we have for our team. He's a Hog of the Week. And I want to thank our defense for playing their butts off and holding them to a goose egg and keeping me the ball back.
Lincoln, tell me, what does it feel like? Were you going into the game feeling really good about your chances this week? Were you having just a really great week of practices? Everything seemed to be clicking. All your receivers were running really crisp, really nice routes. Or was it sort of midway through the game is when you started to realize, oh, something really special is building here?
Throughout the week, we would stack our days. So Monday, it was install, so we'd install our plays. Tuesday, we'd rep it out versus our defense. Wednesday and Thursday is when we would rep out what we need to go through, talk about the plays that we're going to run, and execute them. So throughout the week is what made me feel like, helped me feel a lot more confident as we went throughout the week. I felt good going into the game.
13 of 17, 272 yards, 4 touchdowns, 25 yards rushing for another touchdown on the ground, 1 reception for 20 yards and another touchdown, 317 total yards of offense, 6 total touchdowns for Lincoln Husky, High School Player of the Week for Week 0 right here on the Fan Upstate. At what point, kind of playing off of Diesel's question, Lincoln, in that game Friday night, what was it about the Greer defense? Was it the formation or just the personnel? What was it exactly that you saw once you got out there? Because what you see on Friday is a little bit different than what you see on film, right? You have to get hit a couple of times to get warmed up to what's going on. What did you see once the game started?
I would say both. We looked at film a lot throughout the scrimmages that they played this year, and we schemed for them. So the formations that I saw them that they showed out for us, we were able to execute. And a lot of times I would take my one-on-one matchups with my guys, give them the ball.
Lincoln Husky joining us here on the Fan Upstate, Boiling Springs quarterback, our player of the week, 6 touchdowns in a single game. Lincoln, is that the biggest single game performance of your career?
Yes, sir. I would have to say so. I don't know many other performances I've had like that.
Not a bad one to have. Hey, talk about the reception. 1 reception, 20 yards and a touchdown. Was that something you guys worked on during the week?
Yes, sir, it was. Well, we actually had it in plan a year ago, but we never got to use it. So we brought it back for this year. We liked the formation that they were in, and Coach Sher called it, and it worked perfectly. As
a quarterback, Lincoln, when you are in a play where you are catching the ball on a design play like that, are there extra built-up nerves in that kind of play?
A little bit, but once the play starts, you just flush it all out, and I just ran out and caught it, did what I did.
Lincoln, talk about the relationship that you have with your head coach there. And, when you're having a game that things are clicking and things are working really well, how collaborative is the effort when you go to the sideline and you say, hey, coach, I know we're doing this. I know it's working, but I also think this would work really well as well. Talk about that relationship you have with your coach.
It's a really good relationship that I have. Being able to talk to him whenever I need to and being able to understand, while him also coaching me up, telling me, look, this might not work, this may work too. But me also coming to him and telling him, hey, this is what I see, this is what we might need to do.
That's fascinating. We were talking to a quarterback last Saturday on the Saturday Scramble about that very thing that Diesel just asked you about. This quarterback we were talking to said that his head coach kind of at some point in the game kind of turns the reins over to him. Do you have that same kind of relationship, like where if you're seeing something that the coach maybe can't see from his point of view, that you can kind of start calling the offense yourself?
Yes, sir. So Coach Turk and I have been working a lot. So as the season's going to progress, he's going to let me read what the D-line's doing or what the safeties and corners are going to be ending up doing. So I'll be able to audible either a route or change formation or the run play that we have designed.
Lincoln Husky, quarterback at Boiling Springs. He is our high school player of the week. Lincoln, what do you see as the toughest game on your schedule? I know that you always game plan for the game that's right in front of you. Is there anything that's scheduled a couple weeks out on your schedule that you've got circled, or is your coach really instilling kind of the blinders on a horse, right, where you can't see anything but what's right in front of you?
Yeah, our motto is one day at a time. So we got to attack the day each day. We want to know every single day. So like 1 week at a time. So one game, focus on one team at a time. But I would say a big game coming up for us would be Gaffney.
You can't help but not circle it. I like it. Hey, Lincoln, my last question for you. You're also a lacrosse player. For those in the upstate that don't know, is there any translation between lacrosse and football, like playing both? Does that help you at all, either on the lacrosse field or on the football field?
Oh, yeah, of course.
How so?
A couple of my buddies on the team, too, who are really good athletes. They play both. I feel like the athleticism from lacrosse, running all the time, and the moves that you have to do in the game translate to football as well.
Well, Lincoln, senior quarterback there at Boiling Springs High School. I have no doubt, Lincoln, that if you keep putting up performances like that, we're probably going to be calling you another time or two over the course of the season. I mean, we try to spread the love around. We try to show off all the high school athletes in the upstate. But if you keep putting up 6 touchdown games like that, you're going to basically leave us no choice but to make every single Tuesday on the show, the Lincoln Husky Show. Congratulations on a great game. And, of course, good luck over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for having me out here.
Absolutely. That's Lincoln Husky, quarterback, Boiling Springs. They defeated Greer on Friday. They have Malden this Friday night. So the first 3 games, Greer, Malden, and then Chapman. And then, as he said, they will get into reach and play as they host Gaffney in just a few weeks.
What a tough schedule. You got Gaffney, Dorman, Wade Hampton, Spartanburg, Burns.
Welcome to Region 2 5A.
Yeah, that's a gauntlet would be a great word to use to describe that schedule.
It is. Every year playing in the region, man. It's you're going up against the best, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Tremendous athlete, as I said, lacrosse and football player is Lincoln Husky. So again, congratulations to him, our Week 0 high school player of the week. Diesel, you talk about 6 total touchdowns. Again, I'll give you the stat line on offense. 13 of 17, 272 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, 25 yards on the ground, also a rushing touchdown, a reception for 20 yards, another touchdown, 317 total yards, 6 total touchdowns. Again, we will have our high school player of the weeks on Tuesday right here on the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, and Lincoln's a big kid. Looking at his Max Prep site here, he's 6'2", 185 pounds. That's a guy that could probably stack on another 10, 15 pounds of muscle over the course of an offseason getting ready. That probably has a college career ahead of him.
Very certainly could. Very certainly could. Excited for the player of the week, man.
When we come back, Cole, we'll look at this. Is there any game with more on the line in week 1 than Miami versus Florida?
I like it.
Those are 2 fan bases who are a frog's hair away from going nuclear on their head coach. Who's got more on the line, and what happens to the team that gets beat, to the coach that gets beat? We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. I have seen week 1 Miami versus Florida, Cole, referred to as the Pitchforks and Torches Bowl. Maybe more like a game of horseshoes and hand grenades, because we're going to find out who's actually closer to finding something in the 2024 season.
Is it possible for both to lose?
Well,
I mean, I think I would be okay with both losing.
we got Billy Napier and the Florida Gators, who have not been particularly great under his tenure. We've got Mario Cristobal, who's sub 500 in 2 seasons at Miami, going head to head. I mean, these might be 2 of the fan bases that are the most out of touch with where they actually are as a football team. And the media is guilty of this. You and I have both seen it. We throw our hands up at this every single year. Why do you keep gassing up Miami to start the season? Why? Because they want nothing more than to see Miami come back. I understand. The color scheme looks great. You got a lot of history, right? You got all those national championships that they won back in the day. And it feels like that's a program that when they're good, college football is better for it. And I do agree. College football is better for it when Miami is good. But come on, be a little more realistic with who they actually are. My man Mad Craft's heart can't take Miami getting their expectations up real high and then falling short again.
Kind of seems like you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys when you talk about the expectations and the championships way back when. I literally, for a minute, thought you were describing the Cowboys, but you're right. They haven't been relevant, and I'm talking about Miami. Don't go there. Don't take shots at my Cowboys anymore. I'm only allowed to take shots at them. Diesel can too. But both fan bases, I do believe, are in an interesting spot because when both programs were at the pinnacle, when both programs, Miami and Florida, were at the top of the sport, you could argue that there was no better fan base and program combined than Miami at the top, than Florida at the top. The way that they played, the head coaches that they had, especially with Urban Meyer, Dabo, that fan base, it felt like when they were winning, it felt like Florida was going to be around for a long, long time, and both have fallen flat on their face. It goes to show that as good as Clemson was, as good as Alabama was, nothing lasts forever, and boy, did they both fuse out quickly. I do think this is a fascinating matchup on Saturday.
JB said not every team, but this Miami team isn't a world beater. He and JD are going back. We got JB versus JD going head to head.
That's too confusing for me.
It is, man. It's tough to keep track of this. JB, formerly Spur Daddy, but he's not Spur Daddy anymore.
And then he was something else for a little while as well.
That's true. He was. JB, you've made this difficult on us. But yeah, these are, I mean, I've witnessed the Miami fan base and the fervor and how they travel for away games. I've seen it when they played on the road at App State. I loved seeing the dudes that were dressing up in the orange and green Shogun outfits. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. So that's one of those programs that no matter how bleak it may look, the fan base is going to turn out for them. I don't know that Florida is going to be that too much longer if they don't get rid of Billy Napier sometime soon.
And he just got there.
Right. They just got there.
That's what's wild.
Yeah. Think about this. Billy Napier has only been a head coach for 7 years, and that includes his tenure at Louisiana. He's only been a head coach for 7 years. And here he is. His job is to bring back a once great Florida program in the toughest conference in college football.
I do want to check myself really quick. I talked about both fan bases. This I did not realize was as wide of a margin as it is, Diesel. 2023 average fan base. Florida, do you want to take a crack at it? Last year?
You mean average attendance?
Average attendance, I'm sorry.
Average attendance
in 2023.
The Swamp holds somewhere in the range of 77,000, so I'm going to say that they averaged 60,000 fans.
I don't know where these numbers come from. It says the capacity is 101,000 at Florida.
No
according to D1 Ticker. Listen how bullcrap this number is. It gets even worse.
No, Ben Hill Griffin capacity I was wrong. Is 88,000.
Well, where is a 101? See, this is a proof you can't trust everything you read on the internet. I'm literally on D1 ticker, and it says 101. And
Hey.
I read that, and I'm thinking, what?
Turn
There's
on
no
an
way.
FAU game. ESPN.com will say they had 40,000 there.
Well, I guess you just lie.
They're all
To
dressed
pump
as
up.
aluminum.
So how can you really believe the average attendance then? Because I guarantee you, Miami, who said it says D1 ticker said Miami had 49,000 on average last season. That may be right, but that seems low. That just seems low to me. I don't know if you can really even trust these.
The record
reports
attendance for Florida was 90,798 in 2011.
God, let's shut this website down.
So that's about 2,000 over capacity.
Wow.
Whatever capacity is, you can always add maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more
Yeah.
and say that's what they can squeeze in there if the fire marshal will allow it.
You know what I'll say though? With Billy Napier at Florida, and you're right, he's only been a head coach just a few years now.
Mhm.
I don't think either coach at Miami or Florida are worth a darn. I really
Wow.
don't. I don't
Okay.
think either one of them have good head coaches.
So we've seen a head coach. The earliest I can remember a head coach being fired after a season has already started was when USC fired Clay Helton.
It's
They
true.
fired him in week 2 after losing to Stanford in week 2. So I don't know that we see either Cristobal or Napier fired
Yeah, I don't think so.
that early, but I think there is a chance. I think there's more of a chance, a much bigger chance for Billy Napier at Florida to be fired
Really?
by week number 5. Because week 5 is a bye.
Ooh.
And they could start 1-3 if they lose to Miami, and then they've got a ranked
boy.
opponent in there. I forget who it is off the top of my head, but then they also play, I believe, Mississippi State and a G5, a bad G5.
1 year from today, August 27th, 2025, is Billy Napier the head coach?
No,
You don't think so?
no way. No way.
What a short tenure that was. All right, Dabo Sweeney and Shane Beamer spoke to the media today. We will do a game called Listen, Stop, and React with Dabo Sweeney's audio to the press today next. Well, it's that time of year where the coaches have to face the music. Well, except for Clemson's coach, because they don't allow call-ins anymore. Dabo doesn't have to answer the phone. However, Diesel on Tuesdays, both Shane Beamer, Dabo Sweeney, every single week will answer questions from the media.
I hear at those things you have to submit them via an actual letter. You have to write a letter. It has to be written on a typewriter, double spaced. And if it's not delivered by an old timey mailman who works on foot, not out of the truck.
I thought you were going to say a pigeon.
Yeah.
A pigeon works as well.
Yeah.
It has
you
to be
send
approved.
it by a raven.
After it's approved, then you'll get an official word. No, I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm kind of not kidding. I still think it's a joke that they're not doing calls. However, I do know there are other schools that don't take calls. But let's get to it, Diesel. This is listen, stop, and react. We've done it before. We'll listen to a little bit of Dabo Sweeney. If you and I want to stop the music, stop the noise, if you will, stop old Dabo Sweeney, we will do so and react in real time. Dabo and Shane Beamer both spoke to the media today, this morning, ahead of the Georgia game and ahead of the Old Dominion game. We will do the same with Shane Beamer a little bit later in the program. But since it's week one, I thought, hey, let's hear what both coaches had to say. It's listen and react. Here's Dabo starting to talk about them dogs.
Just got one goal, and that's to find a way to achieve our first goal. That's really what we're trying to go down to Atlanta and do, and certainly going to be a huge challenge. And
Stop. Oh, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, and our goal is to achieve our first goal.
Diesel's already stopped it.
The hell are you saying? All right, go.
Try it again.
Certainly going to be a huge challenge, and playing a game like this is usually you only get opportunities like this in the postseason.
Well, if you play in the ACC, if you play in the SEC
every week,
you can get opportunities like this every single week, Dabo. But you're right. In the ACC, you play them once every 3 years, or in the postseason,
in the playoffs, in a national championship. But this just happened to be on our schedule, so
just happened to be.
It's a great opportunity to play the best team in the country right out of the gate, and that's what they are. If anybody don't think they're the best team in the country, then they probably hadn't paid much attention. These guys are really, really good.
Remember when you used to be the best team in the country, Dabo?
Tremendous job down there.
Long time ago.
And they got a lot of guys back. Starting on the offensive side. I mean, you got a Heisman quarterback. He's a very, very good football player. They've lost 2 games in 3 years. And, and part of that is they're they're a very, very physical football team on both sides of the ball. So you got to be able to match that.
So hang on a second. This is one of the coach speak things that bugs me the most.
Okay.
Is when a coach talks about how physical the other team is. Oh, they're a physical team. Mm-hmm. Everybody's a physical team. Everybody's trying to tackle everybody. The hell are you talking about? Right? Like there's things that they all know you can't do. You can't maul the wide receiver while the ball is in the air. So you can't say somebody that you're teaching your DBs to do that play after play because they're just a physical team. What does that even mean, calling somebody a physical team?
I think he means they're bigger than we are.
Oh, okay.
Translation.
Maulers is what you're trying to say.
By nature of scheme, you got to win competitive plays. I think that's a big thing in a game like this. But starting with our quarterback, he's just a very good player. And, the kid he's accurate. He's opportunistic with his legs. He really understands their scheme. They do a great job in really, making you play assignment football with how they formation and motion and mix, the inside zone game with their toss game and their counter game, in multiple ways that they do that with the play actions and screens built into it. And they got dudes that can make plays down the field. But I think Carson is accurate. I think he's a great vertical thrower. So just puts a lot of pressure on you. And then offensive line, there's probably none better in the country. This is a really, really talented group, very experienced, and big, strong backs, a lot of skill on the edges. They got a couple guys returning that have had a lot of experience in production in 6 and 86 and 11. He's probably as fast a guy. We recruited him out of high school. He's probably as fast a guy as we're going to see. That guy can really, really stretch the field. And then they brought in a couple of guys, obviously Colby coming over from Miami. So, just a complete group on that side of the ball and very experienced and you know what you're getting. And then over on the defensive side, same thing, big, long, athletic, physical, got pass rushers. They got some sub package stuff that they do.
Physical twice.
They're going to get their best rushers on the field. You live in 3rd and long on these guys. It's a really a tall task. So, one of the best safeties you're going to see in the country in 24, great player. But again, 13, 97, 11. I mean, they got guys that can get after the passer, and they're Georgia. So they have a few new faces, but they all look the same. They all can run. They're all strong. They're all physical. Not a lot of room for error with these guys. And good kicker, punter, dangerous in the return game. So again, that's why they're the number 1 team in the country. And you got to play well right out of the gate. To have a chance to win a game like this. So excited.
Is he saying that stay with them in the first quarter, that this thing could get ugly? Again, I want to hear.
Sounds a little bit like it. He also said it sounds like they're preparing for a lot of 3rd and long scenarios, right? He said you live in 3rd and long against these guys.
Hear that again, Diesel.
Again, that's why they're the number 1 team in the country, and you got to play well right out of the gate. To have a chance to win a game like this.
You got to play well right out of the gate to have a chance to win a game. Ultimately, he's right. You can't fall, behind 14 points in the first quarter. We haven't talked about that. If things just go sideways quick, kind of like Duke game did last year, right? You drive down, you fumble in the first possession. Diesel, this thing, we know that a lot of people, Tolos, have said it could stay close, but if you turn the ball over and gift them opportunities in the first quarter, to Dabo's point, he's right. It could get out of hand.
Clemson essentially has to play a perfect first half to have a chance in this one. Right?
I agree with you.
If you can stay with them, then you put Georgia in a situation that they're not in very often, right? Playing in really tough games in the second half. They don't find themselves in that situation very often. So Clemson's got to find a way to generate a turnover. You got to get 1 turnover. And you got to turn it into points. I mean, this is
no doubt.
This is one of those games where you can't really afford to kick field goals. You got to score touchdowns. You cannot leave points on the board or points on the field,
Sure.
against this team. They are just too good. If you're trying to trade touchdowns for field goals, you're going to lose.
A word that comes to mind for me is efficient. You're right. They cannot turn the ball over. They do have to capitalize if Clemson gets turnovers. But a word that just keeps coming to mind to me when Clemson has the ball, Saturday, they've got to be efficient. To your point, when they get in the red zone, they've got to be able to turn that into 6. When they have opportunities to capitalize, even on the flip side, defensively, if you get Georgia into a 3rd and 8, you got to get your butts off the field, right? So efficiency is a word that keeps coming to mind for me. But ultimately, I think what Dabo said is a scary statement if Clemson were to fall early.
Yeah, and a lot of our Clemson Tolos, they're not willing to admit it. It's funny, they've all kind of gone silent. I think the Clemson fan base is really nervous about this game, as they should be. They've gone silent. Y'all aren't calling into the show as much as you used to. You aren't texting into the show the way you would if you felt really confident about this game. If you were playing Mississippi State, we'd have people calling into the show left and right saying Clemson's going to maul them by 21. But we don't have that.
So excited about it, looking forward to it, and we won't have to wait long. Be able to wake up Saturday and get right after it.
Coach, Georgia lost a lot of his offensive production in the NFL and Powers and McConkey. Brought in a really good tight end from Stanford. You mentioned the receiver from Miami. What you know of their roster, how do you expect them to replace that offensive production?
Yeah, Del. I mean, if you watched him last year, he's a great player. Another kid we recruited, number 4. He's made a bunch of plays for him last year. He'll and then they just added, the kid, the transfer. So I don't see any change. I mean, they're really, really loaded it back. They brought in ETN. So, he's a great football player. I know they got one kid that's out, but that kid from Mississippi, we recruited him too. So I got to meet him in person. He's that guy's. He is go take a picture of him in pregame. You wait till you see that guy. So I think the biggest thing is, you obviously you got to win your share of battles up front. And I think the competitive plays, but tackling is always at a premium. Openers are hard. Openers are always hard. I mean, in college football especially. I don't think it's as hard in high school or the pros because you get preseason games and scrimmages where you get more live football and you can kind of work out. We don't get that in college. So, I mean, tackling is always at a premium, but against a bunch like this, by nature of who their blockers are and their backs, tackling will be critical in this game. So, they lost some skill, but like I said, they got all kind of guys that are there and have already made plays for them, and a couple of new guys that maybe haven't made plays at Georgia yet, but they've made plays where they came from, or it's heard some good reviews on a couple of the high school kids that have come in there as well.
If Georgia comes out, Diesel, like I hear Dabo talk about the guys that have come in, and they did lose some studs, right? We talked about it yesterday. If they come in and run rough shop, that might be the true definition of reloading instead of rebuilding. Like Kirby Smart, think about this. Under Kirby Smart, Diesel, Georgia is 8-0 in week 1 games. Bulldogs average 35.3 in their opener. They allow 7.8 in their opener. That is the true definition of reloading because to Dabo's point, that week 1 game, whatever it is, that is the first chance to get out there and actually play.
And coaches, obviously, they don't want sloppy play in week 1 of the season, but some sort of expect it a little bit, right? Like, oh, that's why we play an FCS team in week 1 so that we can be a little bit sloppy and we can figure it out and we'll be better. We'll be good to go by week number 2. Georgia doesn't do it that way. Georgia operates at peak efficiency from week 1, the very first snap of the ball. So that's a scary thing, man. Just the level of attention to detail that Georgia has to play at a high level from the very beginning of the season.
They do. 8-0 again, Kirby Smart at Georgia. Here's another question to Dabo.
Change your game week preparation schedule at all and kind of let them get their legs under them, or is it, no, this is our regular game week?
No, it's definitely, I mean, you try to create the game week routine this week, but it's different. It'll be a different week next week when you have, truly have 5 days to get ready for a new opponent. You've had a lot of time to get ready for these guys. So, yeah, you got to be smart in how you get them ready. Monday is similar. Tuesday, Wednesdays are tough practices, but, with this particular week, again, you have this type of emphasis and you get the things you need to get done, but not quite as long as practice would be next week when you're looking at the opponent for the first time with your guys.
Jaden Lucas and Shelton Lewis, I guess, what's their status going into the week?
Oh, everybody's right now ready to play. Everybody's good to go.
Shelton included.
Good to go until you hear otherwise. Everybody's day to day.
I guess this is going to be a few practices this week for the kicking competition. It's still really tight.
Hoosier's going to be the kicker. He's won the job in camp.
You mentioned ETN coach's status is still kind of up in the air for the game, but how is he similar or different from his brother?
He's fast. He's explosive. He's I'd say more similar than not. He breaks tackles. He's got speed. Probably a little thicker than maybe Trav was. At that stage of his career. But they're both obviously great players.
Diesel, ETN's status obviously still in question, I guess.
It's amazing how all these legal issues just clear themselves up right before the first
away.
game.
Dabo said they've only got one guy out. I mean, what happened to the other 7, right? Like, Or Kirby just must be really good friends with the mayor in Athens. I don't know how it happens, but you're right. I'm excited. I think Dabo, I don't want to say like he is completely overselling Georgia, but he made it very clear in the first part of that audio that we're going up against the best of the best, right?
Yeah. Texter says, so right off the bat, Dabo said Georgia was the best team and their quarterback has already won the Heisman. Talk about decreasing your fans' expectations. Another texter says, we're not nervous. We all know the same thing everyone else does. It's Georgia. Just got to let the game be played and see what happens. But nervous? Nah. Clemson fan says he's not nervous. Grandpa Bucky says anytime a coach talks, it's just one cliche after another. Another texter says, I think offensively for Clemson, it's going to come down to if the receivers can make plays and get separation. Well, that's tough to do when you're playing against the best defensive backs in the country. You can't expect any quarterback to make plays, to make play after play when the corners are attached at the hips to the wide receivers. Going to be a good test for these young receivers. Another texter says, glad I listened to the show. I was just going to watch the game Saturday, but since Clemson has no chance, I guess I'll just go fishing instead.
Did we say they had no chance? Did we imply that? Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't.
I have lots of times. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be flat out with you. I don't think Clemson stands a chance in this game. I would be thrilled and excited if I was proven wrong. So I'm not one of those people who's hating on Clemson, who hates on their chances, who wants to see them lose. I certainly don't want to see that happen. Good football teams in the state of South Carolina make this show more interesting and compelling. I just give my assessment based on the information that we have, Texter.
Couple of stats that we haven't gotten into, Diesel. When you look at the two quarterbacks, Dabo Swinney talked about Carson Beck. In 2023, against ranked opponents, okay? This is Carson Beck and Cade Klubnik against ranked opponents. Carson Beck, 1,304 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, completion percentage of 72.4. Pretty good against ranked opponents, right? Cade Klubnik against ranked opponents a season ago, 655 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 62.3 completion percentage. So those statistics of just the two quarterbacks against ranked opponents, those statistics couldn't be more night and day. Also, it is important to note Kirby Smart is 9-1 versus the ACC and has not lost to a team from the ACC, Diesel, since his first season in 2016. In those games in the ACC, well, Georgia against the ACC, Georgia averages 38 points per game and allows just 13 points a game. Georgia has dominated the ACC other than the one time in Kirby Smart's very first season. Dabo Swinney now 19-12 versus the SEC. He's 13-5 versus the conference since 2016. In those games, his team averages 26 points per game and allows 22 points per game.
So this is a much bigger conversation than we have time to get into because we're about to go off to break.
Yeah.
But this is a legitimate question. How many more years of this level of dominance or relative level of dominance that we've seen out of Georgia under Kirby Smart until we start to say that Kirby Smart is surpassing Nick Saban? Because we've all built up in our minds. We all thought for the longest time, Bear Bryant is the best head coach in college football history.
Yeah.
We all thought that, right? There have been other greats, but Bear Bryant was the guy. Well, now Nick Saban is the guy. He is the bee's knees. He's the cat's pajamas. He's the best of the best. But we got Kirby Smart nipping on his heels and doing it almost, in Nick Saban's shadow, right? Stepping out of the shadow and saying, I'm here. I'm better than you. That's going to be, I honestly think we're five years away from having that conversation.
So for 5 years, and again, not to get down into a deep, dark hole because we do have to run, how many national championships in 5 years do you think Kirby Smart wins? He's won 2 total. Nick Saban has won 7 total.
Yeah.
So you look at the 2, obviously Kirby Smart's trending in the right direction. However, I think it would have to be more like 10 years for Kirby to reach Nick Saban's status.
So Kirby Smart is 48 years old.
Okay.
He could potentially coach for another 20 years if he chose to.
He would
And-
be rich.
Yeah, he would be stinky rich. And I don't necessarily just count trophies as here's proof of who's the GOAT and who's not, because that really takes all nuance out of the conversation, right? You can't really talk about, these guys are
It's
both
a factor,
right.
not
They're
the
both
factor.
incredibly dominant, right? That's what makes this conversation so fun and so difficult to really answer the question. So, I think Kirby picks up another 2 or 3 over the next 10 years. You're legitimately having that conversation, and that's going to be a fun one to have. That's going to be Jordan v. LeBron, right? That's going to be that conversation all
Could
over
be.
again. When we come back, Cole, right here on the Fan Upstate, winning the battle versus winning the war. We've already made our predictions for who we think are going to win the Power 4 conferences. Now let's look and see who we think has a legitimate chance to beat them this season on their way to the ultimate prize. Winning the battle versus winning the war is next on the Fan Upstate. Are you familiar, Cole, with the phrase "you won the battle but not the war"?
I am familiar with it.
Yeah, like you scored a small victory along the way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're not winning this whole thing.
Mhm.
That's where we're talking. That's where we're going with this segment here on the Fan Upstate Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Welcome back, Mark L.O. Ducks, who did very, very well in the Upset Picks Challenge last year in 2023. Mark, you may be a smidge late because we did week 0 picks last week, and you weren't here. You didn't get your pick in for week 0. Now, I don't know that we've done week 0 picks in the past, but there were 4 games to choose from. If there were like 2 games to choose from, we wouldn't have done it, right? We would have lumped it in with week 1. But hey, we got 19 Tolos. We reported 17 yesterday, but we left our 2 celebrity guest pickers, Jake Crane and Josh Pate, off of the graphic. So they're on the graphic now. We have a 19-way tie.
Wow.
For first place.
How about that?
In this challenge. And we almost had like 40 or so of the Tolos scoring points in week 0 of this contest because it's that close. That close. New Mexico almost pulled off the upset against FCS Montana State.
Yeah, they suck.
Montana State scored a touchdown with like 10 seconds to go in that game, and New Mexico couldn't do anything with it. Ended up winning the football game. And Cole and I are sitting over here being very sad boys after week 0 of the challenge. But tomorrow at 4:00. So you got that, Tolos. We're 23 and a half hours away from you being able to get in your week 1 picks in the upset challenge. How many of you are going to take whoever Florida State is playing?
I've got to do some homework tonight.
Yeah.
I've got to do some
It's
homework.
tough, man.
There are a lot of games.
There's a lot of games. And you can look at the spreads, but it's still week 1 where
Now,
we're not sure about a lot of these teams.
To clarify, since I have not played, this is my
Yes.
first year playing. Thursday and Friday games are on the table.
Thursday and Friday games are on the table, yes, but
Okay.
you've got to make sure that if you're going to pick a Thursday or Friday game,
Yeah.
you have to get it in before kickoff of those Thursday
Because
or Friday
there's several
games.
on Thursday.
Right. So that is obviously key. We're not doing this like you got to get it in 24 hours. No, we're not
I'm
doing that.
going
You
to
just got to
pick-
get it in before kickoff.
I'm going to pick a Thursday night game on Friday. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Some people will try to sneak one in, right? Or, every now and again it does happen. You'll have some weird game that kicks off early and somebody will try to just get it in the day of. You'll be fine. Obviously, we're going to be paying attention like, oh, no, that game was played yesterday. Some people just aren't really paying attention,
Sure.
right? It does happen sometimes where somebody will pick a game that's already played without realizing that game is already played. So it does happen. So
19, 20. There are 21 games on
21
Thursday.
games to pick from on
On
just on
Thursday.
Thursday.
There are
Wow.
21 games Thursday night,
Wow.
Diesel. I was sitting over here counting. There are 21 games 2 days from now. I can't wait.
There you go. So winning the battle versus winning the war. What are we talking about here? Teams that we think are probably going to win their conference championship game, who we think very likely could take a loss along the road. Doesn't necessarily have to be a team that they're going to play as a rematch in the conference championship game, though I do see that happening in one of the Power 4 conferences. So let's start, Cole, with the Big Ten. Just off the top of your head, who you got winning the conference championship game in the Big Ten?
The Buckeyes.
Me too.
Buckeyes in the Big Ten. I'm surprised I thought you were going Ducks.
You thought I was going Ducks?
I
Well,
thought
I
you were
do
going
have
Ducks.
Oregon in the Big Ten championship game.
Okay.
But I do think Ohio State stands the chance to lose to both Oregon and Penn State over the course of the regular season. I think Ohio State, with 2 losses against 2 preseason top 10 teams, very well could make it back to the conference championship game. I mean, they, of course, at that point would need a little bit of help to get there. But this is a very, very deep conference, and there's going to be a lot of teams beating up on each other quite a bit. So I have Ohio State losing 1 regular season game. I'm calling it, if I have to pick just one, I'm saying they lose at Beaver Stadium at Penn State November 2nd. They will beat Oregon on the road, and I think that's week 2 or week 3 of the season off the top of my head. And then Penn State gets them November 2nd. They make it to the Big Ten title game. Ohio State ultimately wins the conference championship game. So
When's the whiteout? Is that the Ohio State?
it gotta be. You would think so, right? Excuse me.
You would think so. It's got
hiccuping.
Oh my word.
It's not the Ohio State game.
Washington.
What? What are you doing?
Are
Penn
you
State?
kidding me?
What loser decided it was the Washington game?
And Ohio State plays at Penn State,
Yeah.
and it's not the whiteout game?
Wow.
Oh, that's tough. Washington.
So I think Ohio State wins the war,
I like
but
that.
Penn State wins the battle. Penn
Okay.
State wins the battle. Ohio State wins the war.
I don't have any pushback. There's such a good chance in the Big Ten for it to happen. And what do I mean by it?
It's a deep league.
Yeah, for the conference winner to have a loss to a team. I mean, the Ohio State-Oregon matchup just between the two, that's a fascinating matchup just between those two. But when you talk about a Penn State maybe giving Ohio State, God, that just wouldn't be that would not be a good loss for Ohio State, man. That would be bad. As good as
That's
they're
a
supposed
bad loss. They're a top 10 preseason team.
But you're supposed to be like the guy. You're supposed to go win it. I mean, you talk about letting the fan base down. If it's not Michigan, you're going to lose to Penn State. Come on. James Franklin's not for real. You can't.
He is not what's the parlance? He is not a serious person. Right? If you want to make fun of somebody, you say that person is not a serious person.
He's not a serious person. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate that, though, Diesel. I don't hate the Big Ten.
All right, let's go with the Big 12. This is the one where I see a rematch in the conference championship game. I think Utah wins the battle against Oklahoma State, but the Cowboys win the war.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I see happening. Oklahoma State is going to play Utah on September 21st, early in the season. Oklahoma State will have played 2 cupcakes, and Arkansas that will not traveled outside of their own state. They're going to win that game. They're going to win that ball game. They're going to be rested. They're not going to play. I mean, they play Arkansas in week 2. And I think they're going to be ready to go against Utah.
Man, that's a tough one. That Big 12 this year, I think it might be a league with more parity than we realize.
Love it.
And Utah is my pick to win it. I don't see, however, Oklahoma State winning the conference.
Really?
No.
Who you got winning the conference?
I think Utah wins the conference. I think Utah does it this season.
How much of a little B word does that make Oklahoma State look if you're sitting behind Oklahoma and Texas all these years?
And
then you can't take over when they come back. I mean, it's kind of the same thought I had when App State and Georgia Southern left the Southern Conference. I'm looking around and I'm like, man, Chattanooga, one of the only public institutions left in this conference. They should have one of the bigger budgets because they've got public money, right? They've got tax funding. They've got all this, a bigger fan base. But they just couldn't take over the conference, and they let it bounce around for a number of years.
That conference in 2024, I do think will be fascinating. Again, I think Utah's the better team. But, like, when I look at other conferences, I can say this team for sure is better than this team. I just can't do that in the big. I think there's more parity, like I said before, and I think a lot of these teams are more even. When you look at the Big 12, I do think you'll see more even matchups this season.
So in the ACC, I've got Clemson winning it all. In the Big A, Clemson winning it all. Florida State showed themselves to be imposters in week 0, but Clemson is going to lose along the way.
No way.
November 9th, night game, Lane Stadium, Inner Sandman. They're losing to Chiron Drones.
Are you kidding me?
And Virginia Tech.
There's no way.
Oh,
no
they're
way
losing that game. So
Virginia
Tech's
Tech.
winning the battle, but losing the war.
There's no way. They're not losing
No
to VT.
way.
No way.
No way.
Kate Klubnik's going to go on the road and show out, right? Right? Tell me I'm right. So
take your orange glasses off, Cole. Here's
what's fascinating about the war and the battle conversation with Clemson. Diesel, when you look at Clemson's success over the last few years, especially games or especially years when they've won the national championship, they have had a hiccup, right? Pitt, Louisville. They've had NC State. They've had teams that have beaten them during the regular season. Just so happened last year, 4 ACC teams did, not 1. Prior years, it was just one. I could see them losing one. I just don't think it comes to VT. I could see them losing. This would not be good at all. But I could see them losing to NC State in week 3.
Wow.
Because that's quick. That's quick.
Texter wants to know, this is back to the upset picks challenge. Can we pick more than one game? No. No, you cannot, Texter. You can pick one game. Remember, when you send in your picks, you have to do it under the following format: your name, your game, and the spread.
Yeah.
Whatever game you pick first is your official pick. There is no changing it. So you cannot pick a Thursday game, lose, and then message in on Friday and say, oh, I want to change my pick to a game that's being played on Saturday. You
Sounds
cannot,
great, though.
You cannot do that. Y'all are still not giving Georgia Tech credit. Texter, did you not listen to the show yesterday? We gave Georgia Tech a ton of credit on the show yesterday.
What's that to do with Georgia Tech?
Yeah. We mentioned that Florida State got beat in week 0, were shown to be frauds. So that's not giving Georgia Tech credit.
Now,
Texter, go back and listen to the podcast. You can find all kinds of Yellow Jacket cred yesterday.
So I did take the side of it was more about Florida State yesterday. And Texter, stay tuned for the very next segment, because coming up next, we're going to talk about Georgia Tech and what the rest of the season looks like. So we'll get back to that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
How about that? So one more to go. The SEC, Georgia. I've got Georgia winning the SEC title.
Me too.
Until something crazy happens over the course of the season, Georgia is just better than everybody at basically every position. They've got a better coach. They've got a better quarterback. They've got a better line. They've got better receivers. All of the above. Georgia's going to win, in my mind, the SEC title game, but they're going to lose October 19th at Texas. At Texas. Texas is going to win the battle, but lose the war. Man. Georgia is going to be coming off of 3 straight SEC games against Alabama, Auburn, and Mississippi State before they face Texas. They'll have a bye week after that. If anyone's going to get Georgia, I think it's going to be Texas after 3 straight SEC games ahead of that. I understand Mississippi State is not the strongest possible opponent, but I'm telling you, playing Auburn and Alabama back-to-back and then playing another SEC opponent after that, they're going to be a little bit beat up at that time, and I think Texas might get them October 19th, but Georgia ultimately wins the war and wins the conference.
So don't get me wrong. Texas beating Georgia is a huge accomplishment.
Sure.
However, if they don't go on to win the conference and you're Texas, you kind of feel like there's meat left on the bone. No, I'm just saying you kind of feel like there's meat left on the bone. You go and beat Georgia, but you don't win the conference. That means you lost to somebody else in conference play. You've got to be able to stack consistency up if you're Texas, because if you can beat Georgia, you're one of the better teams. I'm not saying you discredit that win, but boy, that sure would be interesting if they didn't win the SEC after beating Georgia.
Madcraft on YouTube says if Clemson loses to Virginia Tech, then Clemson loses 2 to 3 conference games.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't disagree with them. I don't disagree.
I think a lot of people are vastly underestimating that team, Virginia Tech.
That just
Night
shows
game on the road.
It just shows if, to Madcraft's point, if you lose that game, I don't know how good of a team you are. I hate to be that guy, but I don't think that'd be that would not be a good loss.
We've talked all off season about people discounting and not talking enough Louisville.
Yeah.
I think Virginia Tech is another one of those teams that people aren't talking about.
All right, back to the Georgia Tech conversation. We did have a texter, Atolo, bring it up in this very topic, in this very conversation. Back to the Yellow Jackets. Now that they have beaten FSU, what's next? What do they do for the rest of the season, or is it lightning in a bottle for the Yellow Jackets? Your thoughts and more next on the Fan Upstate. Texter says, y'all still not giving Georgia Tech credit? Well, guess what? I may not be, but we're going to talk about it right now. Also, Ben in Simpsonville sends in his upset pick. Ben, 24 hours too early, my friend.
Got to wait until Wednesday, Ben.
24 hours from now, though, right? You'll be good. Also, Texter Tolo says, for the upset challenge, how about making it where you can't pick the same team twice? Well, Texter, if we had 4 listeners, we could do that. That would be a tremendous task to keep up with.
Yeah, and it does happen over the course of a season, but people don't pick the same upset week in and week out because your team, whoever it might be, is probably not an underdog week in and week out, unless you're Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
In which case you probably are an underdog.
Shots fired
week
at Vandy.
in and week out. Yeah, sorry to our Vandy faithful in the audience. But yeah, Texter, that would be a tremendous undertaking to keep track. I mean, this past week we had something around in the range of 75 to 80 Tolos getting in their week 0 picks.
Yeah, that'd be a tall.
Do you want to go through that list and say, hey, guess what? Now none of y'all can pick Georgia Tech for the remainder of the season.
Hey, have you ever met a Vanderbilt fan?
No,
I hadn't either. I was just thinking
I've
that
never
in my
met
head
a
when you said
Vandy
that.
alum. I've met Georgia alums. I've met LSU alums.
Never met a Vandy fan.
Met a Vandy alum.
Do Vandy fans exist? I mean, it's terrible. All right. Now that Georgia Tech's beaten Florida State, what do they do for the rest of the season? What will their season look like? I know yesterday I took the side of, look, this is more about Florida State not showing up than it is about Georgia Tech. Diesel did give them credit. And, of course, I give them credit for winning the game. But I said yesterday, in my opinion, it was more about Florida State not showing up, not having any firepower offensively. So let's look at it, Diesel, from the Georgia Tech standpoint. After a win like that, a lot of times you do experience, in some cases, a lightning in the bottle situation. Sometimes, however, on the flip side, teams go on to be really good. That's where I want to decide where this Georgia Tech team kind of fits in 2024. What piece of the puzzle do they fall into? The next few weeks are going to be, let's call it easy for Georgia Tech. They have Georgia State, the Qs, and that game's in Syracuse, by the way, and VMI. Those are 3 wins. Diesel, I believe you and I would both say Georgia Tech starts 4-0, right?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, and by the way, it's called now the JMA Wireless Dome. It's not the Carrier Dome.
Oh, it's not Carrier anymore. They changed it. New sponsor.
You could have given me a million guesses. I would have never guessed that.
I wouldn't have either. So we both agree that Tech will be 4-0. Yeah. Then you do, in my opinion, you do have a test. Saturday, September 21st, you go to Louisville, a new sponsor stadium there as well, L&N Stadium. Don't even know what that means. But I do think Louisville could be a tricky team for Georgia Tech. So I'm not going to predict the losses and the wins, but I am going to say, here's a tricky game. Here's a game to circle on this Georgia Tech schedule, because there are, when I look at it, there are several games that you do have to circle and say, this one could be tricky. This one could be a serious challenge for the Yellow Jackets. And Diesel, that's my first one. I'm going on the road at Louisville as a serious challenge for Brent Key. Agree or disagree?
Of course. Louisville is a really solid football team this year. No disrespect to them whatsoever, even though we haven't talked a ton about them to this point in the season. But I mean, they could be a serious test. And, as I'm looking down this line, knowing that, they've already beaten Florida State, I'm not absolutely seeing a loss on this schedule until October 19th. Okay. So that would put them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-0.
Okay.
By that point.
See,
7-0 Georgia Tech by that point.
I don't disagree.
At worst, 6-1.
However, I do think they could trip up. I think they could slip to a Louisville. They get a bye, and then they play Duke at home at Bobby Dodd. I'm not saying Duke's going to be this challenging opponent for them, but I also don't think Georgia Tech just blows them out. They go to North Carolina, then they host – they play Notre Dame at Mercedes-Benz on October 19th. So, in my opinion, when you look at the Notre Dame game, you've got 2 games that you circle as a serious challenge, in my opinion, for the Yellow Jackets. At Louisville and then Notre Dame. Then you have Virginia Tech. Maybe they could be a tricky team. Then you go back home after another bye, and you're hosting Miami. Then you have another bye. They have 3 byes. Good God.
Do you think it's a slap in the face for Notre Dame to be playing Georgia Tech at Mercedes-Benz rather than Bobby Dodd? Bobby Dodd's a 52,000 seat stadium. It's not tiny by any means, but obviously you play that game at Mercedes-Benz, you can pack probably another 20,000 in there. I'd have to guess that Mercedes-Benz is somewhere in the 70s. Most NFL stadiums are right there in that 70 something range. But like, if I'm Georgia Tech, I want them on my campus. I want that in my own backyard. I don't know that you're going to get much of a change in home field advantage, but still, I want Notre Dame in my home stadium.
So I go Louisville, Notre Dame, Miami, NC State, and Georgia. That's 5 teams, Diesel, that I circle as a serious challenge for Georgia Tech. So do I give Georgia Tech credit for beating Florida State? I absolutely do. But I will tell you this. Georgia Tech's not winning the ACC. Georgia Tech's not having some special year. I like Brent Key, but Brent Key has 5 games, in my opinion, that are going to be very difficult. And yeah, if you win 4 of those 5, maybe you do find yourself in the conversation at the end of the season. But I don't see them beating Louisville, Notre Dame, Miami, NC State, and they're sure as heck not beating Georgia. Right?
Well, and this is going to be a tale of 2 halves of the season, right? I mean, that is assuming that Georgia Tech can play at least to the level that they played against Florida State.
Sure.
If they can do that, I do very easily see them at 6-1 going into that October 9th game against Notre Dame. And then it gets really tough.
It does, man.
Notre Dame, road game at Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State, road game at Georgia. You could start out 6-1, and then you could fall off a cliff after that point and hit the ground hard. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. When we come back, it's time for Cole and I to put up our dukes and fight about it. The 5 o'clock fight is next. Shout out to Will G and John Dog, who both sent me screenshots because their names didn't show up on the Fan Upstate leaderboard for week 0 picks.
How
Both
about
of them
that?
selected Georgia Tech over Florida State. So see, guys, it happens. We make mistakes. There's a lot of votes coming in. It's hard to track every single one of them. We're going to miss 1 or 2 a week. But if you know that you got to pick right, and then you know that we didn't put you on the list or we didn't update your score or give you more points for it, we're happy to go back and correct it. So I appreciate Will G and John Dog, both of you, for being a part of the Upstate Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingalls. And, of course, we will get that updated and we will get that fixed.
Yeah, you got mine wrong, too.
No, I didn't. You got yours wrong. Don't put that evil on me, Cole Bryson. You did that. So here at 5 o'clock, what we do each and every day, it is the most interactive segment we do here on the show on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. It's called the 5 o'clock fight. It's where we, throw elbows, we throw punches, we bite, we kick, we pull hair, whatever it takes to win. It's the 5 o'clock fight.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
So we pick 3 different topics: sports, life, whatever. We debate about it.
Food.
We fight it out. We have to take opposite sides of the conversation. We cannot choose the same side. So here we go. Round number 1. What is better, a bed nap or a couch nap? They're very different.
They are different.
Very different. What's
Both
better?
are good. However, when I wake up from a couch nap, I don't have the same sense of fulfillment. I got to be in the bed if I really want to feel like I've recovered or have gotten my energy back. I'll tell you, even to go a step further, the blind's not closed, but like Diesel, all the way closed, like all the way closed, door closed, or it's black, no lights, in the bed, and probably 67, 68 degree temperature in the room where it's pretty cold. I'm good, but it's got to be in the bed for me.
So Cole, I've tried. I'm not great at taking naps in general, but whenever I go to try to take a nap in bed, man, I feel like I got to do all the things I got to do to get ready for bed. And then something about this just feels wrong, right? So it's hard for me. Yeah, it's hard for me to fall asleep in my bed in the daytime. But when you're on the couch, man, you just drift off. It just happens. You don't even realize it. You don't plan for it. It just happens. So for me, those couch naps, man, they hit hard because you didn't necessarily intend to take a nap.
Like a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. You went and you played a round of golf. You're tired. You take a shower. You're trying to cool off. Just hang out for a couple minutes on the couch, and then all of a sudden
you wake up and the game's over.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? That's why I call NASCAR like a cut the grass sport or a take a nap sport, because you can start it, take a nap, come back and finish it. So to me, couch naps just hit harder than a bed nap. That's just me. That's round number 1. How about round number 2?
Round 2, fight.
Will either, I'm not asking which one, I'm asking will either Billy Napier or Mario Cristobal be fired before the season ends?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Neither one of them. I mean, Diesel, in order for that to happen, things would have to go south. And I mean like deep south. Okay? As deep south as you can possibly go. There's no way. Now, at the end of the season, maybe they get gone in the off season. One of them does. But there's no way you can convince me, especially Mario Cristobal. I don't think there's a chance he gets fired during the season. But if Florida were to do it, I think they wait until the season's end. And I'll even go a step further. I think Billy Napier is the coach this time next year. There's just been too many revolving pieces at that head coach position at Florida. So the answer for me is a big fat no.
Well, the answer is yes. And it's not going to be Mario Cristobal, because once he gets past Florida, they've got a pretty easy run of it for the next couple of weeks. But Florida, on the other hand, Cole, Florida has a gauntlet coming up after they play Miami. Not talking about Samford. Samford's going to be an easy one, but then they play Texas A&M at home. go on the road at Mississippi State, UCF, then it's Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. I think there is a very real risk. Not a probability, but a risk that Florida starts this season 1-3. They could lose to Miami.
Good.
They're going to beat Samford. They could lose to Texas A&M, who's a top 25 team, and then lose on the road at Mississippi State. If that happens, if that scenario plays out, which I think probably has, I don't know, a 20% chance of actually happening, Billy Napier's gone. He's not going to reach week number 5, the bye week after that, because they got a bye after that. And they've got time to figure it out. They got time to install an interim. They got time to start looking around. So I think it does happen. I think it happens to Florida. And I think it happens before week 5. This fan base is fed up. Billy Napier's not recruiting at a high level, currently sitting at number 24 in the 2025 recruiting rankings. So I think it's going to be Florida and Billy Napier.
There's no way they lose to Mississippi State, is there?
You wouldn't think.
Oh,
you wouldn't think. But if they're already at that point 1-2, Cole, and then they got to go on the road at Mississippi State, that's when you start losing the locker room.
Oh, it'd be bad. It'd be bad.
And then, of course, you start talking about, you got to do what you can to keep the recruits and keep the team that you have, as much of it as you can.
Look, you're right. The gauntlet follows that, but they can't lose those two. The Mississippi State A&A, and they've got to at least split it.
And then just imagine if they don't fire him by the bye, and then they play UCF, and UCF beats them.
Just what's the how often does a coach get fired during the season? That's my point.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I looked up earlier in the show. Let me find it back here in my notes. We were talking about that very thing in the 3:45 segment of the show, Cole.
Sure.
Coaches who have been fired early in the season. We talked about it. Clay Helton was fired in 2021 after losing to Stanford in week number 2. Mississippi State, I understand it's Mississippi State, different scenario there, but they fired Zach Arnett 10 games into his first season in Starkville. Brian Harsin at Auburn was fired on Halloween in 2022, so he was fired in October. So it happens. It happens mid-season in the SEC fairly regularly, and this fan base is going to want change if they start this season 2-2, 1-3, or for love of God, worse. If they lose to Samford,
he's done.
He's done right then and there.
No, there's no doubt.
So that ends it. Yeah. So that's round number 2 of the 5 o'clock fight. Round number 3. Here we go.
Final round. Fight.
What is the superior musical experience, Cole? Going to see a music festival. Let's include whoever your favorite artist is in this particular music festival.
Kid Rock?
Sure, if that's who you like. Go ahead, man. Pop off. Or going to see it at a smaller club show. So you got a music festival. You can see Travis Tritt, if that's who you like.
Right.
And there's other artists there. There's tens of thousands of people potentially. You got all kinds of sights to see. You know how these festivals go. There's usually a Ferris wheel. It gets wild, right? They do it up big.
Sights to see you.
Or would you rather see it at a smaller club show that's got that more intimate feel?
This is a tough one. Expound on smaller club show for me.
1,000 standing room, 1,500, 2,000 max.
And he's the only artist?
Well, it could be him and a opener that he brings along the road.
God, this question's tough.
Yeah, it's usually not going to be. Now, I don't know a ton about country shows as far as it goes with touring at 1,000 to 1,500 standing room venues, but they usually bring on a couple of smaller up and coming artists.
Sure.
At that point.
This one's so tough. One of the tougher ones. I will go. I thought I was going to go club show, but I'm not. I'm going music festival because for the bang that you get for the buck, spending the money, not only getting to see Kid Rock, who I was out of town when he was in Anderson just 3 weeks ago.
You want to be a cowboy, baby.
The 1 week he's in the upstate, I'm out of the freaking country.
Oh, so is this really Kid Rock? You weren't joking?
No, he was 3 in Anderson.
No, I know he was in Anderson. Is he really your favorite?
Yeah. I love Kid Rock.
Wow.
Love Kid Rock. I mean, I'm not even kidding.
Do you feel like a devil without a cause?
No, but should have been. I mean,
you going platinum? Selling rhymes? You went platinum 7 times?
God, there's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. Don't even get me started on that because that's a debate for another day.
So what word do you think he was going with when he says you can roll with rock or you can suck my what?
Sock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because in the song they bleep out the word. You don't know what he's saying.
I don't want to say this.
We still don't, to this day, we don't know what Kid Rock wanted somebody to
So
suck.
I know that was a long answer. That went, to Kid Rock, and it wasn't supposed to, but Music Festival, because I can see multiple artists. I feel like I'm getting a better value paying for the ticket, and you're right, the atmosphere, man. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic. Thousands and thousands of people. That's the only right answer.
Club show is the way to go because think about it. You're in a club that's 1,500. No matter where you're standing inside of that club, you are closer than you're probably ever going to get at one of those massive festivals. I hate pushing my way through 40,000 people just to stand behind the one dude who's like 6'9". He's always standing right in front of you. I don't know how that works, right? That one tall guy is always there. I like the club shows, man. I want to be down and dirty. I want to be in the room with them. I don't want to be a quarter mile away and listening to it bounce off all the other stages. You're singing Kid Rock lyrics in your head now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Good God, you're addicted. You're addicted. So give me the smaller club shows. Okay, so we're going to recap here. Round number 1. What's better, a bed nap or a couch nap? Cole's going bed nap. I'm going couch. Round number 2. Will either Billy Napier or Mario Cristobal be fired before the season ends? Cole says, no way. I said, yeah, way. It's going to happen, and it's going to be Billy Napier. Round number 3, the Superior Concert Experience, a big music festival with potentially dozens of bands going on stage in a day, or a smaller club show. Cole's taking the big festival. I'm taking the smaller club show.
Come on.
What say you? You get to decide right now. Text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. While you're thinking about it, sending in your texts. Voiceover guy's going to tell you how you can submit a 5 o'clock fight idea.
What do you want Diesel and Co. Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, we.
Come on now. Or is there a better one than that? God, don't get me on a Kid
Devil
Rock.
Without a Cause was a fantastic album. It's one of my all-time favorite albums.
I'll
from that
talk
era.
Kid Rock for the next 2 hours if you want me to.
Even Only God Knows Why was a good song.
Oh my God.
There were so many great songs.
You didn't think I liked Kid Rock?
No, I thought you were kidding.
No, man. I love them. These are probably my all-time favorites. So many good ones.
Devil Without a Cause, a great song. Roving Gangster, Cowboy. I Am the Bull God. I discovered I Am the Bull God on a compilation CD called Hard and the Heavy.
Yeah.
And it was when like all these bands would come, the label would put all these bands of varying, like similar styles, but all metal bands onto one album. And I discovered so many amazing bands off of that.
Kid Rock's one of those guys where like, it doesn't matter how old you are. Every year you can discover a new Kid Rock song that you had no idea existed. I'm serious.
What did you think of his technique when he was when that guy was swinging around his colostomy bag on Kid Rock's stage at his Nashville restaurant? They got the restaurant shut down, by the way.
Probably should have, right?
Yeah, that's probably good. Okay, so Tolos texting in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us who won each round of the 5 o'clock fight. We got a couple of messages coming in here on the stream as well. We'll give you some more time to keep those.
I don't think we need to do the text.
No, I hadn't opened it. I hadn't opened it yet. I'm just looking at Madcraft.
I think we just go to break.
With you here. He says Diesel wins round 1 and 2. Cole gets round 3. So he's with me.
No, let's go to break. No need to go to the text line.
Okay, let's. Now I see why. You didn't want to go there.
Not good.
Okay.
Not good. Where do we start? Dang, Diesel's won the first 2 rounds. Cole, you're picking the wrong
Dang, Diesel.
side.
Remember Damn
Diesel,
Daniel? This is Dang.
Yeah.
Dang, Diesel.
Texter says, round 1, Diesel, couches rule. Round 2, Diesel, at least one is gone before the end of the season. Man, that would shock me. Round 3, Diesel, small clubs better. Texter says, God, Cole, I love you, but swept under your favorite rug because you've been swept today. Scotty from BMW says, Diesel, get the broom out. It's a sweep 3-0. Scotty, what I do to you? Tolo Steve, round 1, Cole. Round 2, Cole. Round 3. God, I love Tolo Steve, man. Tolo Steve's the best. On a bad day like this, I can count on him. Corn Chip Diesel with the sweep. Catch you guys later this week. I'll be at Green Day tomorrow.
Nice.
Are they here in the upstate?
No, they're going to be in Atlanta tomorrow. It's Green Day,
wow.
Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, and the Linda Lindas.
How about
A couple of
that?
punk bands. Now, I'm going to see Smashing Pumpkins tonight in Simpsonville. They're at
Wow.
CCNB.
That's going to be a mess, man. Yeah, a lot to clean up.
Is it?
All those pumpkins?
Yeah.
Come on.
I was going to play a game. See, like back in the day, I used to love interviewing bands, and I would use the band name to come up with like a good way to interview them. I played Island Trivia with the lead singer of the band Islander and asked him like geography questions about islands. He didn't have a clue.
But that was tough.
He was completely lost. And so I was going to play a game called Gourd or Not a Gourd with Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins. So we're going to go sight, smell, and sound. Is what you're experiencing right now a gourd or not a gourd?
That's tough. Dan B goes Diesel, Cole, Diesel. Dan B, not a fan today. Bo says Diesel round 1, Cole round 2, Diesel round 3. Bo,
read the rest of the
suck.
text.
Bo says in the next let me get to the other. Oh, he also said sock.
He said suck that sock.
I didn't want to read it all 3 together.
Yeah.
You notice that? I tried to break it up there. Texter says, Cole, I'm having to put your picture away because of this sweep.
Well
That's
done,
good.
JD.
Well done.
Well done.
Let's see. Texter says, I saw Kid Rock the Friday night at a hole-in-the-wall bar. Following Sunday, he aired MTV. Wow. That must have been an experience. CJ from Greer, Diesel with the sweep. Smaller venues are by far the better experience. Everybody's going Diesel with the sweep. Texter, Diesel with the sweep due to Cole's questionable taste in favorite musical acts. Come on. What is the deal today with the Tolos? Y'all really think that they're going to fire a coach in the middle of a season? Y'all really believe that? There's no way. I hope I'm going to keep I'm going to do a Dion.
Florida, okay?
I'm keeping receipts, by God. I'm keeping receipts.
Nuts in Gainesville. They are nuts in Gainesville. You think they wouldn't do it?
They just hired the guy 4 days ago. He's been there for like a year.
Yeah, but this is the transfer portal era. You don't get all that time. You don't get all that time.
I don't know, man.
This might be one of the most lopsided ass kickings I've ever delivered to you.
It was bad
in the 5 o'clock fight.
I got one win. Ooh, that's rough.
We had a texter get in earlier and say, it was from Mike Main. He said, where can we find the upset picks leaderboard? Mike, you can find it at the Fan Upstate on Twitter. You can find it at the Fan Upstate on Twitter. Yeah, we put it up
that right now.
Yesterday. Now we've made a correction or two in the leaderboard. Really, only one of the games ended up in an upset anyway. So everybody who picked Georgia Tech over Florida State got points, and we missed out on John Dog and Will G.
And Cole.
And no, not you. Jake Crane and Josh Pate. We didn't put those guys on the list. So they are the only ones now there's 21. It's up to 21 Tolos who have picked correctly.
I just retweeted
in week 0.
I just retweeted the official Wire to Wire upset picks challenge. Again, do so right now. If you don't already follow us, Diesel is at Diesel on radio. I am at the Cole Bryson, and then you can follow the station at the Fan Upstate. Get your phones out if you're not driving. Give us all 3 a follow while you're at it. Go ahead and start just chewing on these games coming up, because I'll be frank, I haven't looked good enough, Diesel. I haven't spent enough time trying to find mine. There's just so many games.
It's tough, man. Like you could spend all night tonight obsessing over this and still get it wrong. And then say, you know what? Screw this. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I'm just going with feel.
You're probably right. The best thing that I probably can do is just randomly pick a game and pick the spread and just go with it.
Well, because you just never know, right? I mean, I used to go with the strategy of, well, look at the yards per game, look at the points per game average, kind of get a sense of who I think they've played. And do I think they'll be better or worse than that? But you can't use any of that data till you're like halfway through the season.
And you know what? As soon as I put the time and effort into doing that, they're going to, flip the script. Unbelievable. All right, Diesel, listen and react part 2 today. We did it earlier with Dabo Sweeney. We had a lot of text on Dabo's comments. This time we'll do it with Shane Beamer, who talked to the press today. That and more on the Fan Upstate. You can get your thoughts in 71307. Again, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Well, we heard from Dabo Sweeney earlier today. It is Tuesday, and, this time of year during football season, Dabo Sweeney, Shane Beamer, they get behind the microphone. They tell you how great the opponent is, that they're just the best team since sliced bread.
Very
Old
physical.
Dominion, they're physical. Old Dominion's the best Old Dominion 2-win team that I've ever seen.
Play with a lot of team speed.
Yeah,
well coached.
They've got a lot of heart,
Disciplined.
Grit. Their coach is a great guy. They play tough. They just you can tell they have a lot of the determination. Other word, they suck. I'm trying to make you.
You know what? I wish we had, Cole, and this would be well above our ability and pay grade to do this. Could you imagine doing an amalgamation? We'd have to get AI to help us out with this. Have it analyze every coach's post-game press conference pre-game press conferences and like start a rolling tally of how many times coaches say different words in their press conference. We pick 10 buzzwords: well coached, disciplined, determined,
Physical.
Don't have self-inflicted wounds. All these little buzzwords, right? And then you just work it like a bar graph. And the more and more and more all these coaches say it, you start to see like what are the buzzwords coaches overuse the most. And then you could basically, anytime they use one of those words, you just discount what it is they're saying because they're just filling time.
They are filling time. They're trying to make you think the team's really good. And in Dabo's case, the team he's talking about is really good in Georgia. However, though, when you talk about bad teams like Old Dominion, I think we should have a translator. So, like when Shane Beamer says, you know what, they're really well coached, that means they're not any good, but we like the coach and he's a nice guy. That's what that really means. So listen and react. We will pause this audio at any time to comment on what the head coach had to say. Here is Shane Beamer.
Thank you, Steve. Excited. Finally game week, like Steve said. Really excited to get out there and play on Saturday afternoon. Our guys have been nothing but fantastic since January. Love what we've done as a team and how we've grown since January. Can't wait to get out there on Saturday and finally get to compete against someone else in front of our great fans. We'll need our crowd. This will be the biggest attendance that Old Dominion has ever played in the history of their program.
Wow.
So taking shots. Do our part
Shade
as a fan base, and know they will. They've been waiting since November to get back in there and cheer on the Gamecocks. So I know they'll be at their best. Gamecock Walk will be at 2:15, I believe. We're leaving the hotel to
scan those QR codes, by the way.
And as soon as we get here, we'll be doing that. So we need that to be rocking on Saturday to welcome our players to Williams-Brice Stadium and a lot of guys that'll be going through Gamecock Walk for the very first time as well.
Hope they don't stumble and fall.
Without a doubt.
They really
It's such a challenging
that's a long
ordeal,
walk, man.
To walk down a road.
Sidewalk.
With fans around you. Yeah, with fans around you.
This will be
better not stumble.
First time for a lot of our guys. Gamecock Walk.
Back in medieval days, Cole, they used to, knights would stick their joust up in the air, and the maidens would take a little ring of flowers and they'd put it over the joust to show their favor. Now you just scan a QR code on their backpack and
send them $20.
Send them $20.
I like it.
This morning, great spirit, great energy, intensity, everything that we wanted it to be. That was on display this morning. Great respect for Old Dominion and their program. Obviously very familiar with them growing up in Virginia and recruiting up there for so long. They're located in a hotbed of recruiting in that part of the country. They've got good players.
Translation, we're only playing them to get in with
their
Hampton Roads era talent and high school coaches.
Where is Old Dominion located?
Norfolk.
Norfolk, Virginia?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah, well, they're in my team's conference.
That you cheated. I'm just kidding. I'll give it to you.
What city is James Madison in?
James Madison's in James Madison.
Harrisonburg. What city is Southern Miss in?
Southern Miss. Mississippi. It's the state.
It's the state. I mean, the city.
I don't know.
Hattiesburg.
I would never guess that.
What city is Arkansas State in?
Arkansas State is in Little Rock.
No, that would be UALR. They are in Jonesboro.
Oh, I know that. Jonesboro, Arkansas. I go to Arkansas to
What
duck
city?
hunt, but
Ooh, here's a good one. What city is Coastal Carolina?
Conway.
There you go. Yes, they're not in Myrtle Beach. Don't let anybody tell you they're in Myrtle Beach.
I got that one. Sorry for the interruption. Back to Shane.
There's no question about it. You look back at last year, they easily could have been an 11-win team.
No, they couldn't.
They had 5 losses last year by 6 points or less. So they very easily could be a team that we're sitting here talking about, an 11-win team that was in the mix for a New Year's Six bowl game.
Wait, who is he talking about? What team are we talking about now? Is he talking about Old Dominion?
He is.
11-win team.
11-win team, yep.
Wow.
Whatever it was called last year as well. Got a linebacker that's the preseason player of the year in the Sun Belt Conference and is their all-time leading tackler. He is all over the field offensively, and they play a unique style of defense that will present challenges for our guys in the run game, without a doubt. Play really, really hard. That's evident on tape. Offensively, they'll look very much like Tennessee. With the tempo, the formations, the concepts they run in the passing game, the patterns, the run game. They were very much like that last season. And then in the offseason, they hired 2 assistants off of Tennessee's staff that are now at Old Dominion. So it'll be very much we anticipate Tennessee flavor and a lot of tempo and whatnot. So
there's one thing to have some of the same concepts that Tennessee runs, but you are not executing it at the same level that Tennessee is executing.
And I don't think they have the same Jimmies and Joes either that old Tennessee, old Rocky Top has.
Yeah, it's difficult to compare a 5'11" receiver to a 6'4" receiver.
Well, they're
different.
They're close and they play hard. I'm trying.
That's a reach
as a defense, athletic quarterback that can make plays for them as well. And then on special teams, they've no one in the country. We pride ourselves on being really good on special teams and blocking kicks and impacting games. No one in the nation, they've got the second most blocked number of kicks in the nation over the last 3 seasons. So they're very opportunistic.
So they're going to out-beamer ball.
I was going to say the same thing.
On special teams as well. We all, if you follow college football, you know about their history, beating Virginia Tech 2 years ago. They lost to Virginia Tech last year, but had over 200 yards rushing on Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. They played Wake Forest last year, had them down 2 scores in the second half. And then all you have to do is look at the history of the Sun Belt Conference and who the Sun Belt Conference has beaten over the last 6 years. And it is a who's who of college football. So we need to make sure that our team, our fans, and everyone understands that this is a quality opponent coming in here that does not look like a group of 5 team from a personnel standpoint. They got size and athleticism up front on defense. And, we know they're not coming in here hoping to play well or keeping it close. Yeah.
Here's their schedule. Old Dominion Diesel. At South Carolina, they host East Carolina, which is a tough game. I mean, East Carolina's good, right? Then they have Virginia Tech, another tough game. Bowling Green, don't know much about Bowling Green. Maybe I don't know. Coastal, tough one. Georgia State, we'll see how they are this year.
I would say it's a peer program to them.
Yep. Texas State,
they've come up in the last couple of years.
Georgia Southern,
okay.
App State, JMU. There's 3 tough weeks right there. Marshall, Arkansas State. That is not an easy schedule for Old
back
Dominion.
half of that schedule in conference gets really tough, but man, you got to play 2 power opponents in weeks 1 and 3 of the season.
Wake and the Gamecocks. How about that?
And as a competitor, you want that, and we need to have a great week of practice and put ourselves in position to go play really well on Saturday, and got off to a great start with that this morning. Questions?
Who's going to ask the first
Shane,
question?
A couple for you. You mentioned last Thursday that
David Cloninger
might be out for a while. Is there an update on him?
He'll be out
for the game.
Yes, he'll be out here for a little bit. Definitely for Saturday. He and Aaron Parks both. If he returns, we'll let you know, but won't be a week-to-week thing for now.
And Alex was on top of the kicking competition for the depth chart. What made him won the job, and will there be competition going forward?
Yeah, we'll constantly continue to compete, throughout the year. That's how we do things. Like I told our players this morning, practice matters, games matter, and every week's a new season. But certainly coming out of the preseason, David, we felt like Alex was just a little bit farther along. It was a competition. I think all those kickers would tell you they didn't have the best first week of practice, but I thought as we got into scrimmage situations, more competitive situations, stadium environments, that Alex took a step and separated himself from the rest of that group as well. I like the group. It's a talented group of specialists, but that's what we saw, and you would expect that from him, as he's an older guy that's been around here for a while and has played in games, and there should be a quiet confidence with him, not to mention he's a talented kicker.
Nicky Manwari said something about how maybe you try to poke some of the guys on the defense a little bit to keep them motivated. Can you share any examples of what that might sound like?
No. He said that today in practice.
He didn't specify whether it was today or just.
I think there's certain, your players and what motivates them and what gets them going. And I think they told the story 2 weeks ago of we got Rocket and Dabo had a collision, and I was kind of getting on Dabo about it. And then Dabo went crazy the next 3 plays, and TJ Sanders said that you, meaning me, caused that as well. I think it's just knowing your players and what kind of motivates them and getting them going. And certainly I know how to he was talking today specifically to Dabo. I know how to get Dabo riled up and going as well, but it's just nothing more than just having fun at practice and trying to find different ways to motivate guys out there.
All right, that's Shane Beamer, Diesel. Saturday, they are a 21-point favorite. As of right now, today, Tuesday, what is your lean on that spread? 21 points in favor of the Gamecocks. Where are you leaning?
I think it's a pretty solid, pretty accurate spread. But if I had to go either way, I'd probably lean towards South Carolina covers. I think Old Dominion keeps it a 14-point game midway through the third quarter at least, and then South Carolina maybe pulls away towards the end. Are we going to see Lenora Sellers play the majority of that game because he needs as many reps as he can get, right? So do they leave the starters out there for maybe a little bit longer than a traditional logic would dictate? I think so, yeah. I think you probably do see I had his name in the back of my head for a second. The backup there at South Carolina.
Oh, Robbie Ashford?
Yeah, Robbie Ashford. I do think you see Robbie Ashford probably come in and play all of the fourth quarter, but I think I would be shocked if Lenore Sellers doesn't play through 3. So
would 31-10 be a big enough margin? That's 21 points, by the way. That is the spread. Do you feel like South Carolina Gamecocks would be disappointed that it wasn't more?
No.
I don't either.
No,
I think 31-10 is good.
It is first time for Lenore Sellers really taking over the reins of this team. I know he's played a little bit, but it's his team now. So if you can put up 4 touchdowns in an effort against an FBS team and win comfortably,
sure,
that's a good day.
Sure.
That's a good day. That's one of those days maybe you keep a couple of fans in the stands a little bit longer because it's a little bit closer of a game down the stretch. But I think South Carolina probably beats the spread on this one of 21.
And I do think South Carolina fans should stick around to see Robbie Ashford if he does get the chance to come in. Now, Shane Beamer, one quote that he didn't say right there, Diesel, that I did tweet out earlier today at the Cole Bryson on X, on Twitter, whatever you call it. Shane said, I told the guys this morning I'd be surprised if we don't play 9 receivers on Saturday. He went on to talk about his depth, and he likes the depth South Carolina has. 9 receivers is a lot of receivers. I don't know if that's a good sign or if that's a sign that nobody's really emerged in the wide receiver room. Interesting quote, though, from Beamer.
Yeah, he did give us that quote, a week ago. So it's always hard, because coaches, they also know that things that they say get back to the players. And
sure,
the players will say, what do you mean, coach? You don't think we're that good? That's where these things go sometimes. That's Shane Beamer. We had quotes from Dabo Sweeney earlier in the show. Make sure you go check that out on our podcast. We reacted to the Dabo Sweeney press conference. What time do we do that, Cole? We did that at
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. So you can go find that in the 4 o'clock podcast here on the Fan Upstate. You can find that on your smartphone, on the Odyssey app, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify as well. When we come back, we'll take a whip around the sports world and hit our Daily Wires next. Time to take a whip around the sports world, see what's happening out there. These are your Daily Wires. This is the buzz happening out there. The Carolina Panthers have made their roster moves, get down to the initial 53-man roster. Among the players released, Cole, a lot of no names, of course, but there are a few that fans will recognize their name. Cornerback DiCaprio Bootle is gone.
He sounds like he's financially stable anyways.
Wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. has been waived from the Carolina Panthers. as has wide receiver Sam Pinckney. I remember that guy. I think he played at Georgia State. I'm not entirely sure. Quarterback Jack Plummer has been waived from the team. Let's see. Anybody else? Chris Wilcox, Chandler Wooten, linebacker. He's been released from the team.
You were right. Conference, wrong team. Coastal Carolina.
Went to Coastal Carolina.
How about that?
I knew I recognized the name.
I give you credit for that, though.
Let's see. Outside of that, not a ton of guys who are gone that anybody is really going to recognize their names.
I don't understand the Jake Plummer thing. Like, he played better than Bryce Young in the preseason.
It's almost as if meritocracy doesn't actually matter in the NFL. Former Clemson Tiger and current Atlanta Falcon A.J. Terrell has been named honorary captain for the 2024 AFLAC kickoff
That's
game.
cool, man.
He will join the captains at midfield for the pregame coin toss. So you Clemson fans who have fond memories, tune in time for the coin toss. NFL owners are expected to vote to change the league's ownership structure today, allowing private equity firms to purchase limited stakes in NFL teams. Here's how they're trying to sell this to you, Cole.
Okay, not to me, but
just,
okay.
Yeah, they're just going to let private equity in, okay? But they said it's a move that will allow private equity firms to invest as limited partners that could free up cash for owners to pursue projects such as stadium renovations. Do we really believe that owners are going to use the extra money that they make by selling, who knows what the limited stakes actually means, 10% maybe?
Yeah.
If they're going to sell 10% of their stadium, which these are all multi-billion dollar franchises now, that could mean multiple hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sure.
They're going to say, oh, good, now we can use that to upgrade the lighting system, to upgrade the bathrooms, to give more, this or that or what. No. They're just going to put that money in their pocket. Stop, NFL.
Not billionaires.
Stop trying to sell this to us like this. Former Michigan football staffer Connor Stallions told NCAA investigators that he never participated in advanced in-person scouting and did not purchase tickets for others to attend games of the Wolverines' future opponents to record their signals.
Wow,
So
he's innocent.
all of this, I didn't do anything, investigators. Wasn't me.
Nope.
It was a different guy. My hands are clean from this. Connor Stallion saying he didn't have anything to do with it. Of course, this is all after Harbaugh has left Michigan, and they can't really do anything to Michigan at this point. The New England Patriots have waived Bailey Zappi.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. So they only have 3 quarterbacks instead of 4 with, you know what? I'm surprised by that. He was on the team. I guess he was a Belichick guy.
Yeah.
Maybe Gerard Mayo said, nah, I'm good. But they have just still a very interesting quarterback room.
Couple of bits of news about the Kelsey brothers. Travis and Jason signed a podcast deal with a company called Wondery worth $100 million over the next 3 years. The deal gives exclusive ad sales and distribution rights to Wondery.
I don't like it. I don't like their podcast. I don't like
ton
them.
of money into that.
I'm not a fan. I'm over the Kelsey brothers, man. Like, I am over them.
You know, like the smart move would have just been to trickle out Kelsey brothers, right? But they've just like bombarded us with it. You can't get away from the Kelsey brothers. Speaking of which, Travis Kelsey bought a share of a 3-year-old racehorse. Get this, named Swift Delivery.
Oh, makes sense. Swift.
What a loser. What a loser. Like, it's okay to love your wife. It's okay to love your girlfriend. But when you just stand for her all the time, I bet this horse wasn't even named Swift Delivery, and they changed the name right before
Who's
Travis
whipped?
bought it.
Him or the horse?
Who's more whipped? That's a good question. The Washington Commanders have renamed their stadium from FedEx Field to now Northwest Stadium.
I don't like it.
After selling the rights to Northwest Federal Credit Union for 8 years.
I always knew it as FedEx Field. It's a dump. If you've ever been, Diesel, it is probably the biggest dump, Diesel, in the NFL.
Dan B asked the question, how is a podcast worth more than a player's salary?
That's a valid question, right?
That's smart. You know, I mean, you go from getting hit in the head for a living to just sitting in a chair and having a conversation with your brother. And you get paid That's $100 million over 3 years. That's $33 million a year. That's $15 million per brother, per Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
So you get paid $15 million a year
Yeah.
just to do a podcast.
Not even
It's
football.
Insane. Well, a little bit of football on that podcast, I'm sure. And lastly, Patrick Mahomes Sr. has pleaded guilty to his third DWI charge. Remember, he was arrested back on February 24th with a blood alcohol level of 0.23. Do the math. That is 6 beers in his system at the time of test. And I guarantee you, he didn't just shotgun 6 beers and get in his car. Homie had been at a bar somewhere. He claims that he was just at a bar watching sports with a couple of his buddies. And then he got in a car, drove away, had 4 times the legal limit.
And this is not his first offense, right?
No, excuse me. Sorry, 3 times the legal limit. This is not. This is his third DWI. And because he's related to Patrick Mahomes, he's only getting 5 years of probation.
Man, you kind of feel bad for Patrick Mahomes. Like, he has to deal with that.
And he was on a suspended license when he did it.
And his brother's like off the wall, crazy annoying.
His ass in jail. If his last name was not Mahomes, he would be in jail right now.
You think?
He would be in jail, and he should be.
I ask the question coming up next. What would it look like if we played the old swapperoo? What do I mean by that? Lenore Sellers at Clemson. Cade Klubnik at South Carolina. How would both teams fare? And you'll hear from our player of the week, all coming up next on the Fan Upstate. A good old-fashioned swap-a-roo is what we're playing. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Welcome into Wire to Wire. You can text the show anytime, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open as well. Let's get the phone lines going today. We haven't had much traffic on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Tolos, they got to make their money. They got to get paid too. Renewal by Anderson. Let's get that phone line rolling in this segment. As I ask the question, Diesel, we know that in 2024, we'll see a lot of Cade Klubnik at Clemson, a lot of Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina. Lenoris might be a guy that's known more for using his legs, while Dabo Sweeney said today he wants to see Cade use his legs more in 2024. How drastic of a difference would these two teams be if we swapped the two quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik at South Carolina, Lenoris Sellers at Clemson? Or would there not be much difference in the two if they were to swap and be at opposing schools?
So I want to play a little theme music here for you, Cole. Just bring it down low.
Okay.
This is from the hit network TV show Wife Swap. If you remember that show, we actually had an employee here of Odyssey Greenville, back then it was called Intercom, who went on Wife Swap.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, she was a real hard ass, and she went to a real like laissez-faire hippie house, and it did not go well for them. So there you go.
So that was the wife swap
That
theme
was
right
the
there.
wife swap thing. I wouldn't
Never
expect
watched
a
it.
lot of our Tolos to remember that, so I had to explain what was going on here.
Sure. That's what we're doing here. Swapping the wives.
But yeah, so Lenoris. Okay, let's look at Lenoris Sellers on Clemson's roster. I don't know enough at this point to say Lenoris Sellers would be an upgrade over Cade Klubnik as far as a passer goes.
We hadn't seen
I'm
enough.
I'm sure he's adequate. So I would say Lenoris Sellers probably is equal to, well, he's better than Cade Klubnik with his legs last year. And he is at the very best equal to Cade Klubnik's arms. So I think Lenoris Sellers would have been, especially considering how many of the wide receivers went down, Lenoris Sellers would have been a big upgrade over Cade Klubnik last year.
So I'm glad you said that, because I was going the same direction. I thought our Clemson Tolos would get mad. I don't know about this year. Cade has a little bit more help at receiver. He did have some difficulties last year with two of his best receivers going down early in the season. But I'm in the same boat of Lenoris at Clemson would provide an interesting dynamic with Phil Maffa, right? Both running threats. Lenoris Sellers, in my opinion, I think one of the better parts of his game will be when he is able to create plays with his legs. And that can still include throws and passes, but when he's able to roll out, right, if the offensive line is an issue, if he's able to roll out and buy some time and hit some guys downfield, I think in the Clemson offense, I think he might have been better as well last year. This year's TBD, we know that. But Cade Klubnik in the South Carolina offense last year, I mean, obviously, I think he would have been serviceable for Xavier Legette, but passing-wise, Diesel, you couldn't get much better than Spencer Rattler was last year at South Carolina, passing-wise.
Well, Spencer Rattler threw a lot of picks, so that was a big problem for him. But going back 1 second before we move on, going back to Lenoris Sellers at Clemson, I would look at him as being kind of a Deshaun Watson without the arm.
Ooh,
right? I mean, Deshaun was lightning when he used his legs to create. So I could see some similarities in the way Deshaun Watson was able to create with his legs. Again, we just don't know what Lenoris Sellers' arm is going to be.
Yeah.
But Cade Klubnik heading to South Carolina. Wow, that is a fascinating and interesting question. If you want to say he was probably a little more efficient, a little more careful with the football, throwing the ball than was Spencer Rattler last year. Legs, he doesn't have them.
No.
And legs, he probably won't have what Lenoris Sellers has at South Carolina this year. If they are asking Cade Klubnik to create with his legs at Clemson this year, that means the offensive line is well short of expectations.
Here's one for you. Last year, both threw the same amount of interceptions. 8 in 2023. Cade Klubnik and Spencer Rattler. I do think that what we saw last year, Spencer Rattler is who I would have taken. He was a very good passer, especially in 2022. 264 completions, 3,026 yards, 18 touchdowns. Very similar seasons. Now, 2022, his interceptions numbers, like you said, they were way too high. But it's a fascinating conversation. I do want to go to the phones, 844-326-3663. It is the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. JD, I called for the Tolos to hit the phones, get a little traffic, and you answered the bell. What's up, man?
Well, of course. That's what I'm here to do. You ask for phone calls. I will give you a call. And I will say that I think right now, if Cade Klubnik were at USC, we would be far worse off than we were with Spencer Rattler and Lenora Sellers going into this year. And I also think that if you put Lenora Sellers maybe into a Garrett Riley offense, I think they had a chance to be far more dynamic. So, I mean, we've got a lot of things to see going on this year, obviously. I hope that Cade and Garrett Riley have gotten on the same page. I don't think that Cade can use his legs the same way that Deshaun and Trevor. I mean, we saw Trevor Lawrence go for like a 55-yard touchdown
against Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, the dude had legs. And so we haven't seen that out of Cade. We haven't seen his downfield precision. And so, yeah, I think Clemson, though, if they had Lenora Sellers, I guarantee at the end of this year, y'all will wish that y'all had Lenora Sellers under center. I'm not saying anything's going to go crazy. I'm not saying Cade is going to be bad this year. I think hopefully going into year 2 under his offense with Garrett Riley, I wanted Garrett Riley as the offensive coordinator at Carolina. And so I really pray, though, for the sake of everybody here in the state, for everybody's sanity, that we all just have a good year. It's football season, y'all.
So you want Clemson fans to have a good year as well?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not a hater. I got a little cousin that's a walk-on down there at Clemson, man. Yeah, I want him to have a good year.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I got a little cousin on the team. He's a preferred walk-on offensive lineman. I hope everybody has a good year. I hope everybody avoids injury, and I just hope that we see the best possible football possible going forward. Thanks for taking my call. You asked for a phone call. You got it. Y'all be blessed, not stressed.
Thanks, JD. 844 fan phone. That's the way
He's got to be like that classic meme. You know, the one where there's the cartoon guy and he's sweating and he's like deciding, do I press the red button or do I press the blue button? Like, I'm a Carolina fan, but I've got a cousin that plays at Clemson. Like, what do I do? That's JD right there.
It's a tough line to walk, especially like when you have kids. Like, I would always imagine it being for the parents that had kids at both, like playing at both.
We got Tolos who have called into the show and said they are longtime diehard Clemson fans, but they got to write a tuition check to South Carolina and vice versa. That's tough,
man.
But you know what? All of them have said it's painful to write that check, but it's being done for the right reason so that their kid can get a quality education. They understand at the end of the day, I hate the football team. I hate the basketball team, the baseball team. I don't hate the education that my kid is getting when they go there.
No, I get it. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with JD. Like, I don't know that there was enough evidence last year to say, come on, you're crazy for taking Spencer or Lenoris over Cade Klubnik. The fact of the matter is he wasn't really good last year. Was he good at times? Yes. Did he end the season well? Yes. He had a great game against Kentucky. I think there's a lot to be built. If he can continue to build off of what he did against Kentucky, I think there's improvement. However, I don't know that I disagree. I think that Spencer Rattler, man, I don't know how he'll pan out in the league, Diesel, but I'll tell you this. college-wise, when you talk about a passer that didn't have an offensive line, Spencer Rattler did as good as he could have done. He could have done. I mean, it could have been a lot worse with that offensive line. Texter from the 977 says, JD is an honorable man because I hope Clemson loses every single game and get severely injured in the process.
Texter,
that's wrong.
Can't you just want them to lose every game but be healthy?
That is rough.
You know, you're asking for 19, 20, 21-year-old kids to get sprains, strains, broken legs, perforated spleens, all that. That's tough, Texter.
What was that last injury, Deez?
Perforated spleens.
Can you
punctured lungs?
Can you describe that last one for me? I mean, what?
Well, a perforation, like when you try to, you got to separate two halves of a piece of paper like a check.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a perforation. So it's a long line of little bitty punctures.
Little bitty?
So you could have somebody stomp on somebody and with their cleats and perforate their spleen.
How about that?
We got a text that says ham.
What is the ham text today?
No, we share a text line with our sister station, WORD, and there's something going on WORD, and we've received hundreds of text messages throughout the show today that say ham.
That's all it says.
Ham.
All right, let's go.
No context ham.
I'm going to text back and say turkey to every one of them. Let's go back to a conversation we had earlier in the show in the first hour. Lincoln Husky, the high school player of the week. He had quite the night, and it was in the middle, so I think I've got it. And if I don't have it, bear with me. Don't fire me. Don't hate me. I'm going to do my best. I think it was right in here.
We like the formation that they.
All right, here we go. This should be the beginning. What was it about the Greer defense? Was it the formation or just the personnel? What was it exactly that you saw once you got out there? Because what you see on Friday is a little bit different than what you see on film, right? You have to get hit a couple of times to get warmed up to what's going on. What did you see once the game started?
I would say both. We looked at film a lot throughout the scrimmages that they played this year, and we schemed for them. So the formations that I saw them, that they showed out for us, we were able to execute. And a lot of times I would take my one-on-one matchups with my guys, give them the ball.
Lincoln Husky joining us here on the Fan Upstate, Boiling Springs quarterback, our player of the week. 6 touchdowns in a single game. Lincoln, is that the biggest single game performance of your career?
Yes, sir. I would have to say so. I don't know many other performances I've had like that.
Not a bad one to have. Hey, talk about the reception. 1 reception, 20 yards, and a touchdown. Was that something you guys worked on during the week?
Yes, sir, it was. Well, we actually had it in plan a year ago, but we never got to use it. So we brought it back for this year. We liked the formation that they were in, and Coach Sher called it, and it worked perfectly.
As a quarterback, Lincoln, when you are in a play where you are catching the ball on a design play like that, are there extra built-up nerves in that kind of play?
A little bit, but once the play starts, you just flush it all out, and I just ran out and caught it, did what I did.
Lincoln, talk about the relationship that you have with your head coach there. And, when you're having a game that things are clicking and things are working really well, how collaborative is the effort when you go to the sideline and you say, hey, coach, I know we're doing this. I know it's working, but I also think this would work really well as well. Talk about that relationship you have with your coach.
It's a really good relationship that I have. Being able to talk to him whenever I need to and being able to understand, while him also coaching me up, telling me, look, this might not work, this may work too. But me also coming to him and telling him, hey, this is what I see, this is what we might need to do.
That's fascinating. We were talking to a quarterback last Saturday on the Saturday Scramble about that very thing that Diesel just asked you about. This quarterback we were talking to said that his head coach kind of, at some point in the game, kind of turns the reins over to him. Do you have that same kind of relationship, like where if you're seeing something that the coach maybe can't see from his point of view, that you can kind of start calling the offense yourself?
Yes, sir. So Coach Turk and I have been working a lot. So as the season's going to progress, he's going to let me read what the D-line's doing or what the safeties and corners are going to be ending up doing. So I'll be able to audible either a route or change formation or the run play that we have designed.
Lincoln Husky, quarterback at Boiling Springs. He is our high school player of the week. Lincoln, what do you see as the toughest game on your schedule? I know that you you always game plan for the game that's right in front of you. Is there anything that's scheduled a couple weeks out on your schedule that you've got circled, or is your coach really instilling kind of the blinders on a horse, right, where you can't see anything but what's right in front of you?
Yeah, our motto is one day at a time. So we got to attack the day each day, want to know every single day. So like 1 week at a time. So one game, focus on one team at a time. But I would say a big game coming up for us would be Gaffney.
You can't help but not circle it. I like it. Hey, Lincoln, my last question for you. You're also a lacrosse player. For those in the upstate that don't know, is there any translation between lacrosse and football? Like playing both, does that help you at all, either on the lacrosse field or on the football field?
Oh, yeah, of course.
How so?
A couple of my buddies on the team, too, are really good athletes. They play both. I feel like the athleticism from lacrosse, running all the time, and the moves that you have to do in the game translate to football as well.
Well, Lincoln, senior quarterback there at Boiling Springs High School. I have no doubt, Lincoln, that if you keep putting up performances like that, we're probably going to be calling you another time or two over the course of the season. I mean, we try to spread the love around. We try to show off all the high school athletes in the upstate. But if you keep putting up 6 touchdown games like that, you're going to basically leave us no choice but to make every single Tuesday on the show, the Lincoln Husky Show. Congratulations on a great game. And, of course, good luck over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for having me out here.
That's Lincoln Husky, quarterback of the Boiling Springs Bulldogs. A fantastic performance from that young man on Friday night. You talk about a stat line. Man, against Greer, he lit it up. Number 16 through 13 of 17, 272 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 25 yards rushing, 1 touchdown on the ground as well, 1 reception for 20 yards, also a receiving touchdown, 317 total yards, and 6 total touchdowns against Greer.
That's called feeling it, Cole.
Yeah, that would be a good way to put it.
In the groove, in the pocket.
Definitely was feeling it. They Boiling Springs has Malden this Friday night, and then Chapman the following week, and then they will begin region play. High school football week 1 is here. Again, last week was week 0. It is what it is. I guess high school league does the same thing college does. They have to match, they have to marry. But week 1, Friday night, a lot of good games. 33 games, in fact, on the slate for Friday night. Quick programming note, Thursday we'll continue the high school football conversation as we will have our weekly high school coaches spotlight. We've had Dan Jones of Gaffney. We've had Scoot Watson of JL Man. So we will continue the high school football conversation. Before break, how about this, Diesel? In the chat, JB tells you that he has a prediction for Saturday, and I'm not happy with it. Gamecocks 28, Old Dominion 17. That is an 11-point win. And I said, JB, that would not be good. He says, I'm just being honest. I agree with JD that they won't cover. Will look similar to the opener 2 years ago against Georgia State.
So I know you, Cole. I know that you're a Clemson fan. You've never shied away from talking about your fandom here on the show.
Sure.
But you're going to that game, you think? You are going. And it's confirmed now. You're headed to Columbia for Old Dominion in South Carolina. How do you think South Carolina fans will react if South Carolina fails to cover the spread? 21 points. Let's say it's okay. So let's even break this down a little bit. Okay. Let's say it's 14.5 points and you take the over. So they win between 15 and 21 points. Happy with that? You good with that? Like,
if they win between 15 and 21, how do I think South Carolina fans will react? I don't think South Carolina fans will be overjoyed. I think they'll be obviously happy they got the win, but let's say 15. Let's say on the lower side of your prediction there. Not prediction, but your
I mean, what if it's
scenario.
a garbage time touchdown from Old Dominion that brings it to 15? Let's say South Carolina's up 22 points at that point, and they score a garbage time touchdown to make it a 15-point win.
32 to 10 or something like that. South Carolina's up. Old Dominion scores late fourth quarter. If it's a trash touchdown against your second string defense, I don't think South Carolina fans would be
Because
as enthralled. I mean, I think it would be better, but again, it's still
I think
15 points.
If you're a Gamecock fan, you got to be happy about wins however you get them, right? I mean, who are you trying to earn style points for?
No, I'm with you. I mean, I get it.
You know, you've got this gauntlet of an SEC schedule. Are you going to look back on this season and say, man, we got our asses kicked by this team, and this team, but at least we covered the spread against Old Dominion. That makes us feel pretty good.
Yeah.
No. I mean, just take the wins however you can get them and hope for entertaining and exciting games to watch.
I think I do agree with you. You'll take the win however you can get it. However, with Shane Beamer having the pressure of this season and this being such a big year for him and his staff, I think it would really feel good to go out there and beat him by 28.
Are we going to see Shane Beamer dance in the locker room if they only win by 10?
No.
I was frustrated and kicked something that I shouldn't have kicked.
No, we will not see him dance.
The bad man,
maybe
punted
kicked.
Baxter.
Maybe kicked.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen him come in and celebrate. I don't remember what game it was last year. We saw Shane Beamer coming in dancing, having a good time after beating a mediocre team. I don't remember who it was. You got to celebrate whatever wins you can get, I guess. But at that point, it just looks a little bit silly. But hey, I don't ever want a team where you get a win and the head coach walks in like with his hands in his pockets, looking down. Like
Nick Saban was. I do remember Nick Saban won a lot, and like there would be no emotion. He'd be writing on a notepad, right? That's just the way he was. He was taking notes even after a win. How about this text real quick? 203 says Gamecocks win by 3, but Clemson gets that waxed. I'm good. That's the reality. I mean, South Carolina fans, they don't want to see Clemson keep it close. But that's not a good mentality to have.
It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. When we come back, Cole, let's circle back around to a conversation we had to start the show. 4 schools each, or we'll just go free for all since we already did the 4 school angles. A couple of schools that are now all out of excuses in the 12-team playoff era. We'll get to that next right here on the Fan Upstates. We were trying to figure out which school it was that Shane Beamer danced like a silly, silly boy after beating a team that was far below them. JB messages in and says, I think it was Jacksonville State that he acted like that. You can't be dancing into the locker room against Jacksonville State. And they were still FCS at the time. Like, they hadn't moved up to Conference USA yet.
He's a dancer. What can you say?
Jeez. It was against Jacksonville State. I remember, Cole, when we had on Chris Phillips leading up to that game, we got Chris to agree. And I think he agreed to this because he believed there was not a chance in hell of this actually happening. Mm-hmm. He agreed that if Jacksonville State beat South Carolina, they would be the real Gamecocks.
Ooh, that's tough.
There's all those debates, right?
Yeah.
Who's the real USC? Who's the real Carolina? Which is the real Columbia?
Yeah.
And who are the real Gamecocks? So South Carolina may be involved in more turf wars than just about anybody. So it was against Jacksonville State. Unbelievable. Wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Don't forget that your upset picks are open tomorrow at 4:00. We'll start accepting your submissions. Obviously, if you want to pick a game that's going to be played on Thursday, it has to be in by the end of the show on Thursday. Without looking at the schedule here, and I will be able to give you a very complete. I would imagine we're not going to have any games going off early tomorrow, are we? Like noon tomorrow?
You talking about Thursday?
Thursday, excuse me, Thursday.
7 o'clock, I believe.
7 o'clock are the first games.
I believe so.
Okay,
Yes.
so good. Now, there's a 6 o'clock
Okay.
Howard at Rutgers, but there's no line on that.
Yeah.
There's no line on that one. First game you might be able to pick on Thursday would be Western Carolina, NC State.
baby.
NC State's favored by 33. So you take
30.
Western Carolina plus 33 in that game. You got some interesting ones on Thursday. North
There
Carolina,
are.
Minnesota, North Dakota State, Colorado, as they say. Coastal Carolina versus Jacksonville State. And then the last game on Thursday that you could take would be Eastern Illinois versus Illinois.
I don't
And then-
know, man. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm taking a Thursday game.
Got a bunch of games on Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them that you could choose on Friday. Temple, Oklahoma. Oklahoma favored by 42.5.
Is that it?
That's all-
Only
is that all?
42.5?
You got Florida Atlantic, Michigan State. This is a weird one. What's going on with Michigan State? Sparty, where you at? They're only
stink.
favored by 14
Over
against
who?
FAU.
Yeah, Michigan State's just not good.
They're not.
They're not good. You know what?
Um,
We didn't put them on the put up or shut up, but it very well could. Like, they could have been on
No,
there,
they've
right?
so far fallen off. I mean, they went to the college football playoff. What would that have been, like 2016
One
or
of the
something like
first
that? They
years.
got boat raced.
Yeah.
And they have not made another appearance since. You got Western Michigan, Wisconsin. Wisconsin favored by 23.5. And then I have a feeling a lot of people might take this one. TCU, Stanford. TCU on the road at Stanford. Stanford's a 9-point dog in that one.
Wow.
So there you go. Those are your that's your Friday slate of games. And then, of course, a ton of games on Saturday. Remember, if you want to take a Thursday game, it's got to be in before 7 o'clock on Thursday. If you want to take a Friday game, it's got to be in before 7 o'clock on Friday. All picks have to be in before 7 o'clock on Friday. So there you go. The Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge powered by Ingles back tomorrow. I've got some work to do tonight, man. I got to start reaching out to all of our celebrity guest pickers, Jake Crane, Josh Pate, Melissa Level, Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Kelly Ford's not playing this year. So yeah, we got some people to reach out to.
Sure.
In this official week 1 of college football. And as we get into the college football season, Cole, we're at a 12-team playoff, a totally different scenario from what a lot of these teams have faced in the past. Used to be you lose one game against a pretty good team, and your hopes to get into the college football playoff are done, right? You basically had to go undefeated to have the best possible chance to get into this thing, unless you're Florida State.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? Just right up that alley that you just brought up. Everyone on game day, everyone this season's talking about the college football expanded playoff in a sense of Diesel, it giving everyone hope, right? It giving all these teams hope. But like a thought that's been in my head, is it a real, legitimate hope? Or is it like, I hope this doesn't happen, Diesel, but these teams that have this hope of getting in, are they still going to be sitting in the same spot when the season's over? And that's on the couch. I just hope that this isn't some like made up pretend sense of hope that everybody gets in and guess what? The Final Four are still going to be the Final Four. I'm not saying that happens. I just hope it doesn't.
At least if the Final Four are a familiar set of four, it will be because they earned it in a playoff against the other best teams in America. Somebody is going to get the easy draw and get the Group of 5 champion. That doesn't necessarily mean, but it probably means in most years that they're going to get a virtual bye there in week number 2, in round number 1, because they will be, in all likelihood, the Group of 5 champion will be the 12 seed. If I remember correctly, looking at the graphic, the 12 will get the 5 seed. So the best team, as determined by the committee, that does not win their conference championship game will face the Group of 5 champion. So, I mean, you could see scenarios where that's Texas. You could see scenarios where that's Alabama taking on Memphis or Boise State or somebody like that, getting that game there in week 1. It's going to be tough also for that Group of 5 team. I think it will eventually happen. Something crazy could happen. But that Group of 5 team in all likelihood is going to be going on the road to an SEC team in round 1 of the playoffs. So they are certainly behind the 8 ball before this thing even starts. 12 seed, playing the 5 seed on the road. Could you imagine after a couple of weeks of hype building up from the end of the season, you're Memphis and you're going on the road at Alabama
or Liberty
going on the road at Alabama or Texas or Oregon or something like that.
That's what
and having to face that, you're playing against really tough odds. And I mean, I don't think it changes much, honestly, if you were to flip that script and say, hey, guess what? Number 5 this year, you're going on the road. You're Alabama, you're going on the road and playing at Liberty, which they wouldn't do that. They would play it at a neutral site NFL stadium, I'm sure. So it wouldn't really be a true home game for the Group of 5. I mean, do you really think that Texas would play at App State? No.
I don't think so.
No, it would never happen.
Would there be an overwhelming disappointment in your mind, in the mind of college football fans, if this 12-team playoff did exactly that and everybody from 5 to 12 laid an egg, right? And I don't know what the 4 would be, but let's say it's Texas, Clemson, or Texas, Clemson, Ohio State,
Utah,
and Georgia. That to me sounds like the Final Four without the big. I just think there might be a sense of disappointment.
No, I don't.
I don't think so.
Mean, I think this year is unique because it'll be, as far as the Group of 5 is concerned, it'll be the first time ever that every team going into week 0, going into week 1, has a realistic and legitimate path in front of them to make the college football playoff. It's extremely difficult for a Group of 5. They got to thread a smaller needle than the Power 5s do, but at least they have access now at this point.
Let me ask you this.
Is it possible that we end up, like you said, with 4 familiar faces in the Final Four? Yeah, of course it's familiar. But ultimately, we will have decided that on the field and not have some committee made up of nameless, faceless guys and girls that go into a room that debate college football, that we don't understand why they did what they did, right? So it is a very clear, cut and dry method for choosing the 4 teams that get the first round bye. You go win your conference championship game, you're going into the playoff with a bye. I love that because it makes the regular season matter, because you have to be good enough to get into your conference championship game. That is essentially a semifinal or an elimination game to even get into the playoff.
how many years from 2024, and I'd love to hear from the Tolos on this as well, 71307, start your takes with the word fan. How many years does it take for a group of 5 school to win a playoff game?
I
say 8, 10.
I believe it could happen the first 10 years.
First 10?
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to get – I don't think we're going to
really
keep a 12
good
team.
Liberty team maybe could.
No, there's no
way.
Why is everyone gassing up Liberty?
Because their coach.
They have had the weakest strength of schedule in college football for the past 2 straight seasons. They have not played a Power 5 in the past 2 seasons. They don't play a Power 5 for like 4 more years.
I think it has a lot to do with their coach.
They play the weakest conference they can schedule they can possibly play. And by virtue of that, and I'm not making this up, they have the 134th strength of schedule in college football 2 years running. That sucks to reward a team for playing that kind of schedule. It's ridiculous to reward a team for playing that kind of schedule, but it is what it is. I don't think Memphis. I don't think Liberty is going to be the team that gets in. I mean that's where being the highest ranked Group of 5 champion comes into play.
Yeah,
because the likelihood that a Liberty, given their strength of schedule, is the highest ranked Group of 5 champion when there's a possibility of Boise State running the table.
I pick Boise State.
Or a chance of Memphis running the table in the American Athletic or whoever it may be. If they do that and all of those teams play Power 5 teams on their schedule, if they win those Power 5 games or they acquit themselves very well in those games, Memphis plays Florida State. I know that. App State plays Clemson. I don't know off the top of my head who Boise State plays this year. I think it's either Washington or Oregon, but I'm not positive. If Boise State can look good, decent in that game, and then go win the Mountain West, they're going to get in that playoff over Liberty, guaranteed.
All right, coming up next, the 2 spreads, South Carolina, Old Dominion, and Clemson, Georgia. Who do I think has the better chance of covering between the 2 Palmetto State schools? My early lean. Diesel's got to run. Your thoughts as well. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I asked a question on Clemson, Georgia, on South Carolina Old Dominion. Who do you trust more to cover? Let us know, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I've already gotten several comments on the stream. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Diesel had to duck out a little early, so you're going home with me today, wrapping up hour number 4 of the program right here on the Fan Upstate. Let's see here. Madcraft on the stream says both Carolina and Clemson cover. Wow. I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll see. We'll get back to it. JD says, I think Clemson can cover. Depends on the first half. A game will be played. Someone will win. Well, that, JD, you are indeed correct. A game will be played. Someone will win. That's deep, so I commend you on that. But who? Who will win and who will cover? Let's see. Texter from the 448 says, this is Boston Scott. Boston Scott says, I'm doing a Clemson upset pick. I'm not picking them to win. I'm just celebrating their spoiled fans being upset when they got knocked off or when they get knocked off again. Boston Scott calling the knockoff in Atlanta on Saturday. What are your thoughts on the spread? 14 points. You like that? You think Clemson can cover? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Let's see. 344 says, House of Pizza in downtown Clinton is on fire. Tragedy ongoing. Please send thoughts and prayers. Certainly do that. Obviously, that is not a good situation in Clinton, so thank you for the text there. You hate to see that happen, especially even if it's in Clinton, where I don't know how many Tolos are in Clinton, but it's not far down the road, so I hate to see that happen. Hopefully they've got good insurance. Hopefully they've got good insurance. DB on the YouTube stream. I think neither South Carolina team covers. Neither South Carolina team covers. So that would mean Georgia, if Clemson didn't cover and South Carolina didn't cover, it would mean Georgia wins by more than 14 and Old Dominion keeps it within, 21 right now? 21. You know what, DB? I think I can rock with you on that. I think I can agree with you. Because on the flip side, Madcraft said both Carolina and Clemson cover. And the flip side of that is what DB said, I don't think either one of them cover. I would say I would probably lean with what DB says. If I had to pick between the two, I would probably guess that neither happen before both happen. I'm not going to give you my score prediction quite yet. However, I will tell you, I do not think Clemson covers on Saturday. I don't think Clemson keeps it within 14. South Carolina 21. It's fascinating. We talked about earlier, though, the possibility of Old Dominion scoring a garbage touchdown, if it's a 22-point game and they just bring it within 14, 15, 16 points. I know South Carolina fans wouldn't be the most ecstatic fan base, but look, I think that's a real possibility. I really do. Scott on the Facebook stream chimes in and says, South Carolina covers. I don't see Clemson covering. I love seeing Clemson fans upset, but I think they put up a better fight than most expect. I think it's a 17-point game. Scott, we appreciate the comment. Appreciate you listening to Wire to Wire on the Facebook stream. 17-point game, Clemson, Georgia. Obviously, that would mean that Georgia covers. You know what? I don't think you're far off. Again, I don't want to spoil my prediction that I'll give probably Thursday or Friday, but I don't think you're far off, Scott. I just cannot pick. I can't pick it under 14. I don't have the confidence yet in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley to pick it under 14 yet. Is that fair or unfair? Well, you tell me. Last year, 2023, that's what I'm basing it off of. And last year in 2023, I didn't see anything that leads me to believe that Clemson can hang with Georgia. Now, it's a new season, second year for Cade Klubnik, for Garrett Riley, a couple of new additions at receiver. I understand that last year's last year. but we haven't seen anything yet to lead us to believe that this is a completely different Clemson football team. So if I have to pick right now, I don't think Clemson covers, and I think South Carolina may cover, man. I know Old Dominion could be sneaky. Shane Beamer talked about it earlier, but I don't know. I could see it very well being a 31-7, 31-10 type game. And if it were 31-10, well, it'd be right there at that mark, right, of 21 points. And that is exactly what the spread is. But I don't think Clemson covers. Sorry, Tiger fans. I just don't see it happening. Wednesday, hump day edition of Wire to Wire, 3 to 7 tomorrow, right here on the Fan Upstate.
Streaming on the free Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate and your Wired